That night, the silence of the forest was broken by the crackling of a fire, loud laughter, and the clinking of glasses. First-year students at Shanghai University, which includes our hero Lucas, decided to organize a joint overnight camping trip. This event is special for our hero because next to him is his girlfriend Mino, the sweetest, kindest, and most beloved in his eyes. The sun had set long ago, and it was time to put out the fire, go to our tents, and get ready for bed. Behind the group of students walking to their sleeping places, cheerful, intoxicated by a pleasant evening and alcohol, only one was closely watching our lovers, his gaze full of malice. Lucas crawls nervously into the tent with Mino, where they will spend the night alone. But what is this guy up to? Left alone with his angelically sweet beloved, our hero could not hide his desires. She was too charming before bed. But today, Lucas received a refusal and a promise to do it next time. Mino was too tired. Hopes for the expected end of the evening did not come true, but our hero did not want to rush the girl. Let everything happen a little later. Having wished each other good night, they fell asleep to the sounds of the night forest, whispers and rustling coming from other tents. A little later, through his sleep, Lucas felt a strong heat. The air smelled of burning. It was difficult to breathe, and a male voice was heard commanding the fire to burn. The tent was engulfed in flames and continued to approach the hero. It was impossible to put it out on his own. And what about Mino? In his sleep, begging for help, Lucas suddenly opened his eyes and jumped up from his place. He did not immediately realize that it was just a terrible nightmare. It was just a nightmare. But my arms and legs seemed to have burns. Everything felt as if the fire was real. Mino's sleeping place was empty. She was not nearby. Our hero became worried. It was so late. Was everything okay? Maybe she woke up and decided to go outside? Taking a flashlight, Lucas left the tent. There was no one around. Everyone had been asleep for a long time. He decided to go forward along the path. Perhaps his girlfriend just decided to take a walk. The group chose a very picturesque place for camping, and the light of the stars is not obscured by the city lights. Mino's voice was heard somewhere off to the side. Her words were obscene, and her flirtatious tone was clearly audible. This can't be true. If you look closer, it might not be what it seems. Reassuring himself, Lucas carefully made his way through the freshly trampled grass along the cliff. Coming closer, he saw his beloved in the arms of another. It was hard to believe, because she had always been so innocent. Mino was saying that she didn't like Lucas at all, which the guy hugging her clearly enjoyed. Their eyes were cold, their words cruel, as if there was a completely different girl in front of him. How painful it is. Everything in my chest is constricting. I want to cry, to moan, but I need to hold back. I can't let him be seen so pitiful. His hands are shaking. His legs can barely hold him up, causing Lucas to stumble and fly straight down the cliff. For the first few seconds, our hero did not understand what had happened. He did not have time to recover from his girlfriend's betrayal, and now such a stupid death was approaching. He fell on something hard. There was no earth, no grass, and these were not stones. His whole body ached greatly from the blow. He would most likely not be able to get up again, and he felt how life was slowly leaving him. At the place where our hero fell many centuries ago after helping Lady Ninel save the heavens, Kiramu had to seal himself. His body died long ago. It is difficult to say how much time has passed since then. Lucas fell right onto the seal. He felt that his dream, the fire, and this place were somehow connected. Kiram was surprised by such a release. This boy must be his descendant since his blood was able to destroy the seal. The human body before him was dying, all the bones were broken. But since the deity was now free, his spirit was weakening. Kiram thought that the earth would not perish, and the sky would not collapse if he left his current vessel, and he would also preserve the life of his descendant. Lucas's body was engulfed in flames, and he felt life returning to him with wild pain. His scream could be heard over a long distance, and Mino became worried that Lucas had found out the truth about her. But this excitement did not last long. She quickly returned to foreplay with her new boyfriend. Meanwhile, Lucas's body seemed to be consumed by fire. He could not understand what was happening to him. Tongues of flame spread across the body, arms, and legs. The pain became pleasant. Treatment with divine flame is a pleasure. The pain is unbearable. Kiram saved Lucas from death, but his spirit is now in the same body. The deity became interested in who this girl was, because of whom the guy almost died. But indulging in memories, he thinks that one can expect nothing else from his descendant. Kiram decides to borrow a body and return to the scene. He jumps so high that he quickly reaches the top. He climbs to the top of the tree and mockingly watches what is happening. Mino notices Lucas. It's not even entirely clear what she's more worried about, that her deception was revealed, or what he might have seen if she hadn't noticed him. And the unknown guy seemed to be waiting for them to be found, even though he says the opposite. Our hero jumps down from the tree and continues to mock their secrecy. Why are they so loudly clenching their lips out of fear of being noticed? To which the stranger responds with a desire to watch such losers who caught their girlfriends cheating, to watch the pathetic expression on their faces, and reminds him how well he spent time with Mino. The provocative speeches continued. Questions about what Lucas could do. Maybe he would punch someone in the face. The offer is, of course, very tempting and will be fulfilled with pleasure. Our hero jumps up with inhuman speed, so fast that no one had time to understand where he disappeared to. The stranger looks around, not understanding what to expect. He hears something rushing past, now to the left, now to the right, and all this happens in an instant. Only he looks back and sees a hand flying towards his face, but he doesn't have time to do anything. Well, Kiram took revenge for Lucas with his own hands, pinning the bastard to the ground so that an imprint remained. What incredible power with such a physique! The stranger was at first confused, but it seems he was not particularly surprised. Moreover, he does not seem to be thinking of giving up. Kiram felt the ominous aura of a possessed person coming from the boy below him. He is turning into something, and a strength that is not human has noticeably begun to grow in his body. He was turning into something else, claws, horns. His body began to grow, veins bulged. The monster grabbed our hero and threw him forward as if he were no heavier than a ball. Kiram, only slightly touching the ground with his fingers, deftly landed on his feet. The creature before him had completed its transformation, and there was almost nothing human left in it. The Bighorns are an ancient clan of demonic spirits. Kiram encountered them long before he was sealed. Could it be that they haven't been exterminated yet? They survived by inhabiting the bodies of people, just as the deity inhabited Lucas's body. Horrified by what was happening, Mino simply lost consciousness, and Bighorn began to salivate. Having eaten Lucas and the deity inside his body, he will become much stronger than he is now. Which of course won't be so easy. After all, Kiram is not so simple, and why not try some fried beef after such a long sleep? Standing in a stance, Bighorn seemed to have gathered demonic power in his horns, preparing for a powerful blow. But he received a withering blow to the forehead and was defeated. The human body is too weak. If Kiram were in his body, with such a blow, he would have burned the entire forest on this mountain to the very foundation. But even such a blow was enough to defeat a weak opponent. He slapped him once, and he already turns into a man. But he is still alive, and since he has a connection with the demon clan, there is no choice but to kill him. The demonic spirit, in fear, hurried to leave the body, gathering into a lump and muttering something. As he left his body completely, his words became more clear, begging for mercy and forgiveness. And the appearance raised many questions. It was he who had taken possession of the stranger's body. But where was all that power that could be felt in the air? Continuing to beg for mercy, the small, harmless spirit revealed that he did not belong to the demonic clan. He was just a small spirit of the clinging. It seems Kiram slept for too long, since he doesn't know about the existence of such spirits. The little clinger is ready to tell what the ancient spirit missed in captivity. A mysterious catastrophe led to the complete extermination of the clans of gods and demons, but their souls were able to survive this tragedy. They had no choice but to find refuge in the bodies of their descendants, in whom the blood of their clans flows. This symbiosis allowed the use of force and became known as obsession. What happened to Ninel? These thoughts were interrupted by the clinger. Promising that he had never harmed people, he continued to beg for mercy. But Kiram was amazed by such impudence. Just recently, he had threatened to devour him, to which he replied that he was not capable of eating a person and only wanted to taste spiritual power. Sounds plausible? It seems that everything is really as the little spirit says. Kiram is not the god of death, and he won't kill him. But he didn't forget to remind him that if he does anything like that again, there will be beef shashlik. But there will still be punishment. We need to torture Lucas to vent his anger, since they share the same body. The next day, our hero woke up in his sleeping place. Everything seemed like a long dream, and his body ached as if he had been run over by a steamroller. Falling off a cliff, is it also a dream? Kiram's spirit flew up from behind and asked him not to make noise early in the morning. Lucas jumped back in wild horror, insultingly calling the deity of fire a demon. How could the god of fire do this? And at that moment, our hero realized that all of yesterday's events were not a long dream. While our two heroes were getting acquainted, someone was quickly approaching the tent. Something happened to Mino and Thomas. Lucas started to get ready in a hurry. A crowd of students gathered in one place. Some were laughing, some were shocked. Many took out their phones. The girls were actively discussing Thomas. Lucas hurried to the crowd. He was very worried that something bad had happened to Mino, and Kiram seemed to know what to expect. Apparently, this was the punishment he spoke of last night. As he got closer, Lucas was speechless. Now it's clear what all the fuss is about. The students certainly won't miss such gossip. Now Mino will most likely have a hard time at the university, unlike the guy. Everyone's cell phones started ringing. Messages were coming to every phone. Lucas took out his. The photos flew across all the chats with the caption, "The guy took revenge on his girlfriend and her lover." Comments were written both for such a punishment and against. Kiram, seeing a mobile phone for the first time, got very excited, sent it flying around our hero and bombarding him with a lot of questions. It seems that no one can see spirits anymore. Everyone decided that Lucas went crazy, hanged his lovers, and was arguing with himself. But in any absurd situation, you can simply run away. And of course, not paying attention to the spirit, so as not to create more awkward situations. The deity was offended by this, decided to remind of his greatness, and demanded respect. But it was probably not worth expecting respect from Lucas. And besides, he was angry about the hanging. Now Mino would definitely leave him. Are they trying to drive away the great god of fire? Is it possible that a weak person does not want his strength? Because there are so many people in the world who are possessed like Thomas, who are capable of destroying without much effort. But Lucas didn't want to become a hero. He hoped that if something happened, a real hero would come at the right moment. On the way back, he said that he wanted the simplest life of an ordinary person and nothing more. When they reached the city, they saw a fire in a women's dormitory. The fire was spreading quite quickly, and the firefighters were not yet there. A student was running among the people and asking for help. Her friend remained inside, but the crowd only watched silently. Everyone pushed her away, not wanting to participate. There's no sign of the beloved hero that Lucas was talking about just recently. Kiram thought that this was perhaps the only thing that had not changed over time. At some point, it seemed as if a smile flashed across the face of the student who was sobbing and begging for help. Lucas, although he dreamed of a quiet life, could not stand aside when someone really needed help. Snatching a bottle of water from a random person, he quickly moved towards the dormitory. When the hero does not appear, it is still worth leaving thoughts of calm and non-involvement. Not all people are selfish. Do not underestimate humanity. Having doused himself with water, he rushed into the burning building. Perhaps it is not too late and the girl is okay. Since childhood, Lucas was not distinguished by courage. He considered himself rather weak. He tried not to get involved in unpleasant situations and pretended as much as possible that he didn't notice them. To the point that, having learned about Mino's affair with a guy from university, Lucas tried as much as possible not to notice it, afraid of losing her. But today, his patience ran out. He no longer wanted to ignore all the troubles happening in his life and around him. The students just continued to stand by and film, and the chats once again became animated with active comments. The girl who ran from person to person and begged for help for her friend clearly did not expect this help, and moreover, was in a quiet rage. At that time, Lucas was quickly climbing the stairs up to the floor where the man was supposedly left. In the corridor, flames were breaking through closed doors. Smoke covered the ceiling, but it was possible to pass. Lucas ran to the door and tried to open it. The handle got so hot that it burned his hand. Having endured the pain, he nevertheless turned it. The door was locked. Our hero did not know what to do now. He dared not to stand aside, but still could not do anything. While Lucas was punishing himself with his thoughts, the street became louder. Fire trucks had already arrived at the building, driven away the crowd, and were hastily making preparations to rescue the victims. Our hero apologized to Kiram for his loud words and asked for help, offering his body so that no one would get hurt. The divine spirit is too strong. Unlike human souls, the more often a deity takes possession of a human body, the greater the likelihood that the human soul will simply disappear. Instead of giving up the body, it is better to borrow divine power while maintaining sanity and becoming one. Now the door is not an obstacle for Lucas. He easily enters the room. The firefighters see something flying out over the stretched lifeline. It must be a person. They need to catch him quickly. It's just a door that left a lot of questions. There was no explosion. Lucas walked to the bathroom, where a naked girl was lying. Apparently, she had lost consciousness from the smoke. This must be the same Nana that the girl below so persistently begged to save. While our hero was looking her over appraisingly, she came to her senses. Lucas was confused because she was naked and such a beauty. And besides, he was looking at her in the bathroom. When Nana realized this, she was alarmed. How did this pervert even get here? The girl must have lost consciousness and not realized that there was a fire in the dormitory. Everything around was filled with fire and smoke. The burnt pillars were burning, falling and breaking windows, knocking down furniture. Nana was very scared, but Lucas destroyed the wardrobe flying at her with one blow. She was amazed at such power and could not understand why he did not pay attention to the fact that his hand was burning, but it seemed that it did not harm him. Lucas took her in his arms. Nana felt admiration. What a wonderful savior came to her. Through a hole in the wall, they approached the edge. The girl was very afraid of heights. Was her hero really going to jump down? Of course Lucas did, because there was a lifeline stretched out for them below. Although with divine power, it wasn't really necessary. Nana lost consciousness again from shock and was taken away by an ambulance that arrived on the scene with firefighters. When it was all over, Lucas released Kiram's soul from his body. Our hero felt that because his soul and body were weak, he easily succumbed to the influence of divine power, as if he had changed very much in a short time. The student, who had been worried about her friend all this time, came up to thank the savior. Something was bothering her a lot. She was squeezing her hand so hard it seemed like she was angry, but Lucas didn't pay attention to it. He only answered with embarrassment that he could not act otherwise. The student assured him that he certainly deserved gratitude, then ran away, throwing him an unkind look as she left. Although Lucas was too naive to notice, Kiram certainly did. I didn't just turn to him. I felt an evil aura. Perhaps this student is also possessed. It is impossible to say for sure, but most likely the spirit of the turtle dove's envy. Lucas was familiar with the name, having often come across it in the Book of Mountains and Seas, an ancient Chinese treatise describing the real and mythical geography of China and its neighboring lands and the creatures that lived there. And also other books about spirits, most likely referring to the first one as a source which Kiram was outraged by. Where does information about spirits, demons, and gods of the heavenly realm come from in human books? The only book where you can learn about them is the Encyclopedia of Monsters, written by Yank, which collected information about all 11,520 spirits, demons, and gods. Lucas wanted to know where to buy this encyclopedia, to which he received the answer that the book had been lost long ago. Taking a step back, our hero stepped on a book that had somehow fallen from the author's stand. After apologizing for damaging the goods and promising to buy it, Lucas decided to see what kind of book it was. This is the Encyclopedia of Yanka. What luck! But didn't Kiram say that it was lost? It was Yank himself standing in front of them. It seems that during the Great Catastrophe, some lucky ones managed to save their bodies. And how did the most ancient god, who has existed since the creation of the world, become an ordinary merchant? Yank didn't become a spirit, and he needs to eat. What a shock Kiram experienced when he found out that Yank sometimes launches streams for the sake of donations. Meanwhile, Lucas found the Dove of Envy. Since the book is original, it can be safely trusted. Yank wasn't particularly good at drawing, but the content is much more important than the picture, isn't it? The turtle dove of envy inclines people to envy, using this feeling as food. The objects of envy chosen by the turtle dove will soon die due to the misfortunes she has caused. It looks like Nana is still in danger because her friend went to the hospital, apparently to finish what she started, and our heroes must prevent this. Lucas heard a familiar voice behind him. His old friend, out of joy, ran and jumped into his arms because they hadn't seen each other for so long. From our hero's reaction, it was obvious that this was not the first time Emma had jumped on him. Kiram mistook her for a guy, but Lucas explained why this guy had such big pectoral muscles. As it turned out, his separation was already known everywhere, and as a true friend, she came to ease his suffering. And the support of a sports-obsessed person, running 300 laps so that all sorrows would be forgotten. But Lucas could not appreciate it. But Kiram liked this attitude, and our hero could not resist dampening the fire that flared up from such speeches. He forgot that Emma cannot see the deity, but she can hear perfectly well what people say. Having come up with many important things on the fly, Lucas escaped from the awkward situation, and in the future, he should not forget himself. Seeing that her dear friend was completely fine, Emma stopped worrying and ran away in the other direction. Lucas and Kiram went to the hospital to check if everything was okay with the rescued girl. At the door, our hero was worried. He didn't know how to communicate with girls at all, and in front of such charming ones, he was completely at a loss. But when he heard the conversation of two friends behind the door, he was so excited that he forgot about the awkwardness of the conversation. Opening the door, he first glanced at Nana to see if she was okay. Standing between the girls, he asked the possessed one to leave and let him talk to the sick one. Having told Nana the whole truth, keeping silent about the demonic descendants, Lucas stood absolutely pleased with himself. But apparently the girl did not want to believe such accusations. But how did Nana fall asleep in the bathroom? Or how can we explain the fact that all the windows and doors were securely closed? And why was the dear friend herself not in the room during the fire? Nana couldn't believe it. Such impudent accusations, she asked Lucas to leave. In response, he took the cup of tea that the possessed woman had left next to the bed. He was sure that this tea was definitely another murder attempt. Otherwise, what was the point of all these pleasantries? Nana couldn't understand what kind of abnormality this was and how to react to such behavior. How can you take tea away from a sick person? Walking down the hospital corridor, Lucas spat what looked like a small bug into his hand. Kiram frowned. Apparently, he had encountered such underwater leeches more than once. They hide in the water. If you swallow one, the flesh begins to fester and become covered in ulcers, changing the person beyond recognition. The victim would gladly prefer death to such a life. The dove of envy wants Nana to die a painful death. She must not be allowed to succeed. While Kiram teased Lucas about whether his persistence was due to his good looks, Turtledove stood around the corner. She already knew that Nana had not drunk that tea, and out of impatience, she was ready for any action. Obsessed with envy, she could not calm her feelings. She came up with many ways to commit murder. That same night, she sneaked into the hospital unnoticed and entered Nana's room. No longer worried about secrecy, the possessed woman held a knife in her hands. Standing by the bed, she whispered her sick thoughts. This envy was about beauty, and the girl could not wait to leave many scars on her pretty face. Before she could do anything, Nana turned around sharply and stopped her hand. What a strong grip. It wasn't a girl in the bed. It was Lucas, dressed in hospital pajamas and a woman's wig. The possessed woman, in a rage, tried to find out where he had hidden Nana. But our hero did not hide anyone. The sick woman only hid behind the curtain, wanting to get rid of doubts. There was no need to lie anymore. She saw the knife and heard the impulsive screams. Nana didn't believe it until the very end. But she agreed to this performance because the doctors found sleeping pills in her blood, which shouldn't have been there. The possessed woman did not want Nana to die, only to disfigure her so that she would know how to steal other people's boyfriends. When Maya wasn't possessed, she and Nana were best friends and she had a boyfriend, Marcus. Thinking that this love was true, Maya gave the guy her virginity. But while he was in the shower, a message came on the phone. A response from Nana asking him not to write to her. Opening the dialogue, she read how her lover confessed his love to her friend and wrote that this relationship was only to be closer to true love, which plunged her into grief and anger. The dove of envy found her victim that evening. Not wanting to listen to apologies, Maya decided to release the demon. Her hands became like huge bird paws with long, sharp claws, and her wings were like those of angels from fairy tales, only black. Before Nana had time to recover from this transformation, she was already hanging over the city in the clutches of a monster. Having flown higher, Maya simply abandoned her. No matter how, she wanted to destroy her friend as soon as possible. Nana was helpless. Experiencing wild horror, she almost accepted death. But almost at the tops of the low buildings, Lucas picked her up in his arms and carefully laid her on the roof of the hospital. Rage grew in Turtledove envy. She did not understand where this devil came from and began to ruin all her plans. Kiram doesn't like being called the devil, but he loves fried chicken. Maya flapped her wings and bird feathers, sharp as blades, flew at Lucas. It was pretty close, but I managed to dodge it. It's good that Turtledove wasn't aiming at Nana. It would have been difficult to protect the logo from such an attack. Such powers are not inherent in simple demonic souls. The demon must have killed many people to get it. We need to decide how to fight an enemy high above the city while standing on the ground. Kiram had this ability because Lucas was one with the deity. He was able to intuitively understand how to master it. Gathering himself, he jumped so high that he saw the entire city, then descended a little lower and hung in the air. Soaring above the city, our hero felt confident and did not even experience tension or fear of heights. Although it was worth it, at that very moment losing control, he fell back onto the roof face down. It is naive to assume that an ordinary person will be able to use all the possibilities without putting in the effort and training. This sight amused the turtle dove. With such poor spiritification, it would not be difficult to fill the belly with spirit with a weak vessel. But she did not rejoice for long. Although the man did not have much strength, he knew how to dodge. But Kiram didn't consider him a weakling. He was amazed at how quickly Lucas mastered his techniques. It seemed like this man was a real talent. There was nothing special about his agility. For a man who had been bullied since childhood, it was natural to understand the different ways of escape. So Lucas's talent is only in running away? The turtle dove is ready to test his talents? What will our hero do if the feathers fly not at him? Nana was so scared that she couldn't get up. She just sat there and watched as many projectiles flew at her. But Lucas managed to push her away and shield her, risking his life, although the deity had already saved him from death. Maybe he didn't risk that much. As soon as he meets a beautiful girl, he immediately has terrible luck. The turtle dove scoffed at such self-sacrifice, sycophancy, and nothing more. But could such a pitiful demon ever experience care in his life? As these words angered the turtle dove, I accelerated downwards. She was preparing to throw as many feathers as she could. It should be difficult to dodge from close range. At this time, Lucas realized that he could attack from a distance, which should be used if there was no way to reach the enemy. He gathered the flame in his hand. It condensed into a powerful fireball and flew straight towards Gorlitza. The feathers began to burn. It was already difficult to stay in the air with them. She was already much lower than before, which allowed Lucas to jump and strike with all his might, burning the enemy with divine fire. The turtle dove believed that the guy was possessed by a weak demonic soul, so she was going to simply absorb it. But now she realized that she was obviously unable to win. From the impact, she flew down so quickly that a clear trace of a strong fall remained on the concrete roof. Lucas moved closer, intending to send the demon to hell where he belonged. But by doing this, the possessed girl to whom this body belongs will die, which Turtle Dove wanted to use as protection. To which Lucas reacted coldly and said that he didn't like people that much. It was not entirely clear whether this was true or some kind of trick. With a blow, he threw her closer to the edge of the roof and quickly headed there to continue. Nana ran up and grabbed his hand, begging him not to touch her friend. She couldn't hold a grudge, and she felt a little guilty about that incident. Fearing that the deity would actually kill her in a human body, Turtle Dove decided to leave him as soon as possible. Even though it hurt her further development, it was better than just disappearing. The demonic soul, resembling a small gray lump, spun and took off, promising to get even. At that very moment, out of nowhere, a guy in a mask and with a large axe jumped out and cut down the turtle dove. Lucas and Nana were taken aback. He landed right in front of the two of them. It was unclear whose side he was on, or who he was at all. He held the soul of the envy dove in his hand, wielding it like a trophy. Our hero was overcome with an incomprehensible anger. Threatening, he ran up and grabbed the guy by the collar. Why such scenes because of the demonic soul? What does it matter who stops it? Since Lucas can't deal with the envy dove, he decides to let off some steam on the guy in the mask. He, of course, is not at all against it. But with the current level of spiritual connection, our hero is unlikely to be able to continue. The stranger knew this well. He was very familiar with the peculiarities of using divine power. Lucas fell to his knees, blood flowing from his mouth. He could not understand what was happening to his body because Turtle Dove had never been able to seriously injure him. Nana was very scared and did not know how she could help. Running up, she began to cry in confusion, trying to find out what was happening. The stranger began to explain that because Lucas fought recklessly and overconsumed the power of spiritification, the fiery energy began to circulate randomly in his body, thereby bringing his end closer. Nana could not understand what he was trying to tell her and begged him to explain it in simpler language. And he compared it to a very high fever. Consciousness may suffer, and in the worst case, he will simply die if the temperature is not brought down. They were on the roof of the hospital. Nana decided that they could take him to the doctor. Although this is not a simple fever, it is unlikely that medicine will be able to help him. But at least something can save Lucas. You can't just let him die. It seems that the guy in the mask knows how to help, but he behaved either dubiously or thoughtfully. He told Nana about the powers, but she could not understand everything. It is believed that just as darkness can flood light, so can light dispel darkness. The attribute of fire energy in his body belongs to light. if it is balanced with the corresponding energy, then there is a high probability of achieving harmony, which can save him. Nana still couldn't understand anything and tried to get the most simplified answer possible. What should she do? To transfer the energy of the dark feminine principle from mouth to mouth, which really shocked her. Like a sleeping princess, she had to kiss Lucas to wake him up. And quickly, he wouldn't last long. And let this kiss be gratitude for everything he did for her. Even though Lucas was unconscious, Nana was very embarrassed at that moment. With one hand, she timidly touched his face. With the other, she carefully pulled his hair back. Gathering her courage, she finally kissed him. At first, Lucas showed no signs of life at all. But suddenly, he pressed Nana tightly, not letting her leave, and began to kiss her passionately. What a pervert! The girl was outraged by such impudence. Jumping to the side, she showed her displeasure with all her appearance, which forced Lucas to make excuses because the culprit was Kiram, the same one thus received from her the dark energy that she offered voluntarily. Nana looked up in fear. She clearly saw a ghost in front of her, as she first thought, apparently. By transmitting her dark energy, Nana awakened her own spiritual energy, so she was able to see the deity. While discussing Nana's new abilities, the masked guy called Kiram by name, even though no one had introduced themselves to him. So, they know each other? In the modern era, meeting an ancient deity is a great rarity. It was time to introduce himself. Taking off his mask, the guy said his name, Leon. But under the mask, there was no face, no head, from which Nana was already lying unconscious. Even having seen the deity, she was ready to fall. And now the guy is without a head. Too many shocks in one evening for a weak girl. Leon suggested moving her to a more comfortable place and continuing the conversation at his place. There are many ways to merge with the spirit. One of them is to find a descendant who is blood related to the spirit, and another is to take possession of a person through the weakness of his character. However, all this time Leon existed inside a man named Thomas and slept soundly until his head mysteriously disappeared, at which point the deity awoke and took complete control of the body. Yes, Lucas had heard rumors circulating around the university recently about a killer walking around the city, beheading his victims. Kiram was happy for his old friend, because if his carrier died, he gained complete control and could use the corpse for his own purposes. He is forced to squeeze into the same body with Lucas, a useless idiot, although he could be grateful. Leon interrupted their argument about who was more important, raised his hand, and began to unbutton his sleeve. A corpse is still a corpse, and no divine power can keep a dead body fresh forever until Thomas's head is found for resurrection. Nana came to her senses and stuck her head out from around the corner a little, not daring to come closer. After hearing the last part of the conversation, she wondered how Leon was going to revive the body if it had already been beheaded. The bearer of a divine soul will not die even if his head is cut off. But why is Nana talking from around the corner? So that the headless body would not terrify the girl, Leon decided that if she saw his face, she would not be so scared. Lucas and Nana watched in surprise as he undressed, and Kiram was only glad to see his old friend, who hadn't changed a bit. The fear and horror disappeared from Nana's face. Now she experienced completely different emotions from what she saw. It wasn't at all scary, but rather insanely ridiculous. It may not have been entirely tactful, but Nana laughed out loud, so hard that it was impossible to stop the tears. Lucas also couldn't stop, although he wasn't scared. And in general, he was convinced that nothing could surprise him anymore, until that very moment when he saw such an absurd sight. The students continued to laugh until Leon put on his sweater and finally got around to discussing business. On TV, on the news channel, they started talking about the killer. It looks like this is the one they need. The couple were found decapitated in the heart of a city park. Police are investigating but have encountered difficulties, so everyone is asked to be careful and not go out late at night. In Nana's group, this topic was raised during classes, and students were asked about the same thing. All these incidents are not the work of human hands. Most likely the heads of people are needed by the demon in the body of the possessed for its incarnation into a monster. Lucas was upset by such news, and Kiram assumed that the demon was most likely small and weak. But Leon, investigating each incident, found traces of residual demonic power. And apparently, the killer is far from weak, so we cannot remain inactive. Otherwise, it is unknown what this could lead to. When Kiram responded to the proposal to unite with mockery, the ancient god Leon himself suddenly became concerned about the fate of the human race. Why play the hero when he just wants his head back, that's all? And in fact, He is not like Mrs. Ninel. He absolutely does not care whether the human race exists or not, just like Kiramu. One only has to touch him, and the offender would spend the rest of his life as a pile of ashes. As Leon noted, thousands of years have passed, but Kiram's ego is still immense. The patron god of fire is very strong, no doubt about it, but now he is just a guardian spirit. The limits of a deity's power are determined by the potential of the descendant. Relying on a weak, cowardly, and sluggish carrier, only pathetic demons like the Dove of Envy will be able to do so. Kiram's eyes lit up. He intends to spend the next few days training, but it seems his plans do not coincide with Lucas's plans, who continues to insist on a simple, calm human life. Kiram's face became more serious. If nothing is done, there will be no peaceful life. The possessed, by devouring their own kind, increase their strength, and they are unlikely to spare someone for weakness. Besides, if Kiram is consumed, without the support of divine fire, Lucas is unlikely to last long. If you want to live, you have to become stronger, and Lucas accepted this truth. The weekend was over. The next morning, all the students went to classes. After such a busy night, I was desperately sleepy. Lucas yawned so much while walking to the office that it was enough to tear his mouth. His friend Finn came up to him to find out where he had been all night. He had never returned to the room, but how could he answer him? Entering the office, Lucas saw his ex-girlfriend with a new partner, Jerry. For a moment he was surprised, but watching them kiss in the back rows, his emotions turned out to be much colder than he expected. And this love was as if for show. Mino. To show that she was not at all excited, Jerry. To boast about what a beautiful girl he was now with. Finn mentioned the tree of shame quite loudly. No one would stick their nose out after that. Jerry, like a real guy, took his girlfriend's side. No one dares to insult her. But having said something like that, Finn was of course ready to answer for his words and suggested sorting things out in the corridor. Lucas didn't need protection, asking his friend to ignore him. He compared Jerry to a mongrel that it would be stupid to bite back, which made both Mino and her new boyfriend look like laughingstocks in front of the entire group. To respond to this would be to make oneself even more ridiculous. To remain silent would also be difficult. They were both hurt. Lucas gave the impression of being an inexperienced fool, so why did he look so much more manly now? The teacher entered the classroom, announcing the start of the lesson. Everyone became quiet and sat down in their seats. Our hero didn't listen. He was thinking about his feelings. Seeing how Mino flirted with another, there was not a drop of sadness and disappointment. Kiram, being connected with Lucas, knew all his thoughts and began to insert his comments into them, all because of his acquaintance with a rare beauty. Lucas was embarrassed by such a dialogue. He forgot that the deity was always with him, and he tried to justify himself that it was not because he fell in love with Nana. But there was no talk about Nana, so it turns out our hero gave himself away. The class was interrupted by a knock on the door. All the students and the teacher turned towards the exit where a beautiful girl was standing. The guys couldn't hide their delight, and the girls were jealous of how she won all the male attention with her appearance. It was Nana. She really wanted to talk to Lucas and asked him to go out for a little while. Just hearing this, everyone turned their heads towards him, which stopped the arguments with Kiram in their minds. Gossip immediately began to spread among the students. The girls discussed what kind of beauty she was, and the guys didn't understand why she was calling Lucas, why she needed him, and what kind of relationship they were in. Such conversations led everyone to one conclusion. Nana is his new girlfriend. And if so, maybe they abandoned Mino after all. Why such a slob when there is a beauty? She wanted Jerry to protect her, but he himself was captivated by Nana's beauty. Lucas left the office, leaving the whole group to continue guessing. He even felt a little pleased. After asking what was needed from him, Lucas continued to yawn and comment on what a crazy night it had been. But how can you fall asleep here? And from the moment of the kiss, strange phenomena continue to happen to Nana's body. The guys standing around the corner heard only a kiss. A crazy night. Something with the body. It's not hard to guess what they were imagining. Nana walked a little closer to Lucas and showed him the water she was holding hovering above her palm. It is not clear why, but now she could control water, just as our hero could control divine fire. Lucas didn't understand how this could happen, but it was better to discuss such things in a more private setting, so as not to become the local weirdo. Kiram, of course, knew why this was so. It was all because Nana's spiritual power had awakened, and the suffering spirit had already paid attention to her. The conversation then continued in the university garden. There was not a soul around during classes. Nana and Lucas sat down at the table in front of Kiram, as if they had their own classes. Spiritual studies. Suffering spirits without a vessel can easily disappear, so they constantly follow bodies filled with spiritual power in the hope of preserving their lives. Nana was scared. Would she become possessed like her friend Maya and then turn into a scary monster? In vain, because spirits, like people, can be good and evil. There are those who brazenly seize control over the body of their carrier, for example, the dove of envy. And there are those, like Leon, who try in every way to revive the body of their vessel. However, it cannot be said that there is no way to resist if an evil demon tries to take over the body. Maya was easily possessed by the dove of envy because her spirit was weak and vicious, which is why she was unable to resist. In order to suppress the spirit sleeping inside, one must train and strengthen spiritual power. Since ancient times, Kiram had 2 scrolls of special techniques, Wandering Flame and Protection of Dark Water. Each scroll has its own beginning, namely light and darkness. If a person decides to master these techniques on his own, then he will inevitably die from the scorching heat or incredible cold. Lucas was already thinking about training together. His face turned red, as if he had received a proposal to date. After talking a little more about training, they went to their offices. After the end of the school day, having gone to a quiet place, Lucas and Nana sat back to back and began to train their spiritual concentration. Being nearby, Karam looked at the guys appraisingly, considering that his carrier did not particularly stand out with his abilities. But the girl, on the contrary, has considerable talent and was able to make good progress in such a short period of time. With a tired look, Lucas stopped his concentration and opened his eyes. This is Kiram's training? The body feels tired, but there are absolutely no changes. Water wears away stone. Where has it ever happened that people felt significant changes on the very first day after training? But Nana didn't feel tired, but rather a strange feeling, as if her body had become much lighter. Kiram sent the girl home to get a good rest and ordered her to continue in the same spirit for 3 days without fail. Nana thanked her spiritual mentor and left. A tired Lucas also got ready to go rest, but Kiram seemed to still have plans for him, saying that their training had just begun. Controlling divine fire requires great strength. It is not enough to improve the strength of the spirit, you also need to train the body. For an hour, Kiram taught Lucas martial arts. They practiced strikes, grabs, which was exhausting, considering the lack of lunch. Severe hunger constantly distracted and prevented them from getting ready. In addition, if you need to strengthen your body, in the modern world there are special places for this. It is not necessary to run through the forest and invent challenges for yourself. Kiram has not yet seen modern gyms. Lucas decided to show him that in one building there are many rooms for different types of activities. A swimming pool, a gym with exercise machines for all muscle groups, and not under the scorching sun, but with a working air conditioner. On the treadmill, Lucas saw his childhood friend Emma. There is nothing special about meeting her on the exercise machines, but she was surprised. Has our recluse really decided to take up sports? It's probably going to snow now. An unfamiliar guy approached them, very embarrassed. He tried to start a conversation with Emma. Introducing himself as Leo, the head of the basketball club, he asked her out. His height was indeed impressive, and his girlfriend seemed to be quite popular among the athletes. While Lucas watched everything with amusement, Emma took his arm and snuggled closer. She responded to the proposal by saying that she already has a boyfriend, and it looks like we are talking about our hero. Emma whispered in his ear about the old deal, pretending to be her boyfriend so she could turn others down, so Lucas would act more natural. Leo reacted to this statement in a not entirely adequate manner, grabbed his opponent by the collar and began to insult him in front of everyone. How could Emma choose him over such a weakling? But Lucas seemed happy to figure it out. The guys decided to have a sparring match in the ring. The girlfriend, for obvious reasons, did not believe in our hero's victory and tried to stop the guys. Having promised to knock his opponent down with one left hand, Lucas did not listen any longer and silently went to prepare for the fight. Standing in the crowd of assembled spectators, Emma screamed in fear, causing our hero to turn back abruptly. Leo, not waiting for the command to start the fight, jumped into the attack at full speed, but Lucas managed to dodge. For a while, without attacking back, he continued to shorten reflexively, while Leo tried to provoke an attack back with words. It's really becoming more and more difficult to dodge such fast strikes. He needs to use the technique that Kiram taught him in training. Seizing the right moment, Lucas took a stance and moved towards the enemy running towards him. He hit Leo in the chest with a powerful uppercut, lifting him slightly off the ground. As promised, a one-hit victory. Emma couldn't even imagine that Lucas could fight. The crowd enthusiastically shouted about the defeat of the undefeated champion of the hall. Our hero was proud of himself. Finally, a victory by his own efforts. The crowd around continued to discuss the fight and wonder what kind of monster knocked out the captain of the basketball team with one blow. After training, when it got dark outside, Emma and Lucas decided to have dinner together at an inexpensive restaurant. We ordered burgers, cola, and fries. Today, everything is on Emma. The girl undoubtedly brought up the topic of sparring. She was very interested in when Lucas learned to fight like that and why he didn't talk about it. Citing luck, he turned the topic to Emma. Why she didn't want to date anyone. Pretending to understand everything, he made a painful pause, which made the girl feel nervous. And then he asked if she liked girls. Emma was outraged by such a statement, but it was just a joke. In fact, she already has someone she likes, so she won't accept anyone else's feelings. While Lucas was jokingly mocking the fact that Emma, with her character, had an object of affection, a man with an impressive aura walked by very close behind the glass. The same aura that remained at crime scenes around decapitated victims. Lucas and Kiram immediately felt it. Quickly saying goodbye to Emma, they ran out into the street, and the girl sat down on the table in disappointment. What a fool, can't he understand such obvious feelings? Lucas ran down the street after the remnants of the demonic aura, and then they heard screams from the alley. This was probably the one they needed. Turning the corner, he saw two corpses, again a decapitated couple, and next to them stood the same girl in the raincoat who had passed by the restaurant. Believing he had caught the criminal in the act, Lucas made it clear that he would not let him escape. The girl turned around. Who would have thought that she would be lucky enough to meet a fellow? But no one intended to fraternize with her. Lucas joined forces with Kiram and rushed into the attack. Without straining herself too much, she turned her whole body and looked mockingly at the approaching attack. Just like last time, Lucas wanted to use the same blow that Kiram taught him in training, but before he could reach the enemy, he received a strong blow to the chest. A terrible pain, as if all the bones inside were broken. From such a blow, our hero flew into the wall. Pleased with herself, the girl enjoyed the easy victory, even though they both used flames. The difference in strength was colossal, but the difference was not in her favor. Lucas stood up and smiled, as if he had been slightly pushed, and the pain had long since passed. Simple spirits cannot heal their vessel so quickly. What kind of power is this? Kiram showed his face. In the enemy's flame, he felt the power of an old acquaintance, Bifan. And he was right. Bifan also showed her face. A beautiful female image appeared before everyone, and just as stern. But at that very moment, she was already joyfully hugging Kiram and telling him how she missed him, not expecting that even the master would have to turn into a spirit. There will be no continuation of the battle. Both deities seem to be well acquainted and connected by a common past. Bifan is a divine beast, a beast follower of Kiram, who is convinced that she cannot have any relation to the bounty hunter. A golden-haired girl named Wood and her guardian spirit are part of a community of evil spirit hunters. So they came to the crime scene in search of that crazy spirit, hoping to find clues. Hunters view demons as trophies, and when they win, they have every right to absorb the spiritual power of their prey to increase their level. But Lucas wasn't really interested in the hunter's business. He just wanted to find the killer who was beheading innocent people. Maybe we should join forces. The killer only attacks couples, and at least one of them has a guardian spirit. And since they both have such guardians, by pretending to be lovers, they have every chance of attracting the attention of the thug demon. Without waiting for an answer, Wood arranged to meet in the park at 7 p.m. the next day and said goodbye. What a determined girl. But be that as it may, first we need to call the police. The next day, Lucas showed up at the park for the arranged date as agreed, but Wood was late. While our hero stood waiting for her at the fountain, he discussed with Kiram whether they should be trusted. He was 100% sure of Bifan, and accordingly her vessel. And then their dialogue was interrupted by the appearance of Wood. She spoke and behaved as if she had actually seen her lover. Coming closer, the girl took his arm and pressed herself so close that it wildly embarrassed Lucas. Someone called out behind them. Interrupting the love scene, they both turned around. Nana was standing in front of them. Disappointment was clearly visible on her face. She looked at them in bewilderment and wanted to know what was going on. Was Lucas really dating this girl? Our hero was confused. He was in love with Nana and didn't want her to get it all wrong. But it already happened. Wanting to enjoy the date, Nana turned around and left. Who is she for Lucas to make jealous scenes? Wood pressed herself against her temporary boyfriend's arm, asking who the girl was that had just spoken to them, since they had planned to spend the evening together. Lucas understood that he shouldn't run after Nana. If they revealed themselves now, then everything would be in vain. But he was very worried about her feelings. Let it be so. When the criminal is caught, he will definitely explain himself. But now they need to decide what they will do next with Wood. Of course, everything that is customary to do on dates is work for the companion, which she takes seriously, so the entire route is planned. Having taken a large portion of popcorn and 2 glasses of cola, the couple headed to the cinema, as is customary for young lovers. While watching an old romantic movie, Wood cried out loud. Lucas could have supported her, but he had seen the film before, so he was not so generous with his emotions. The guardian spirits tied to their vessels also cried while watching. Kiram, of course, did not expect that the film could touch him. Afterwards, the couple headed to an expensive restaurant. Lucas felt uncomfortable in casual clothes, and he couldn't afford something like that, which Wood asked not to worry about because the hunters get good money and today the food is at her expense. Finally, the waiter brought the drinks, asking for forgiveness for the wait. The guy handed a glass of champagne to the girl. As if on purpose, the waiter dropped the drink before Wood could catch it, spilling it on her. Again, apologizing for his mistake, he began to clean up the spill and wanted to help the girl with her wet clothes, to which he received a polite refusal. Entering the toilet, pleased with himself, the waiter looked in the mirror with a smile. The prey had fallen into his net. They went to the cinema, had dinner at a restaurant. Were they able to attract the killer's attention? Walking along the sidewalk and chatting about future plans, Lucas saw an establishment with signs for lovers. Without thinking twice, our hero stopped Wood and suggested that she come inside. She raised her head and made a questioning expression. Looking up, he saw a sign for a love hotel, of course. He didn't want to suggest something like that. But the imagination of a young student cannot be stopped. Lucas, embarrassed, began to make delicate jokes, saying that he could go for business, to which Wood grumbled and dragged him further down the street. To run into trouble, you have to go to a deserted place. The pseudo-couple turned into an alley. Looking around, neither Lucas nor Wood could sense even a drop of the possessed spirit's aura. Could it be that the killer had not taken the bait? Kiram decided to help make the bait even sweeter by pitting the pair against each other. Lucas almost fell on his companion, but he rested his hand on the wall. Yes, it definitely looks more romantic. Standing in a deserted alley, a guy pins his girlfriend against the wall. Now, according to the script, there should be hugs and kisses. Kiram and Bifan watched from the sidelines with excitement, waiting for the culmination of the evening. A little further in the darkness, they heard the clanking of a tin can, as if someone had stumbled. The couple rushed off in the hope that the criminal would finally show his face. But Nana was sitting on the ground in tears. It looked like she had fallen. When asked what she was doing there, the girl began to tell an obviously made-up story about how she was walking at night in a dark alley and ended up nearby completely by chance. Lucas, considering that the killer would not appear, decided to suggest going to a more pleasant place for conversation. At that moment, a man entered the alley, noting that he would no longer have the opportunity to talk because they would all die here and now. The face and voice are quite familiar. It's the same waiter from the restaurant. When the possessed person pretends to be human, he goes to work, and it is much easier to find prey when working with people. Wood did not listen any further. The confession was enough. Being confident in her strength, she gathered the power of fire into a fist and, accelerating, jumped at the enemy, preparing to strike. With a wave of his hand, the killer doused her with something slimy, the smell reminiscent of the drink he spilled on her in the restaurant. Initially, it was a poison that had no effect on health, but acted as a relaxant on spiritual strength. Nana forgot about her jealousy and anger. Now she was filled with fear, and Lucas could not understand what the waiter had just done. Wood immediately fell down exhausted, unable to even defend herself, let alone continue to fight. The killer sensed Bifan and was sure that by isolating her, the victims had no chance to defend themselves. A multitude of snakes reached out to the poisoned prey from the possessed man's slimy snake body. But Lucas ran across, protecting Wood. It seemed that the killer did not sense the presence of the second guardian spirit, but continued to feel relaxed due to his great self-confidence. Lucas released Kiram's power. A fiery aura surrounded him. He would have to pay for thinking he was weak. Demonic snakes, slimy creatures. but capable of creating a water shield that will stop any fire attack. But divine fire is much more powerful than any attack of a small demon, and the shield could not stop our hero. Quickly breaking through the defense, Lucas charged straight towards the enemy and struck as hard as he could. The snake quickly flew into the wall. It seemed the battle was over, but no. From such a blow, the killer only realized that he would have to work hard. Usually, he didn't encounter couples where each had a guardian. He didn't even have to fight. The snake venom was enough. And is Lucas's guardian really equal in strength to Bifan? Then we'll have to use the most powerful techniques. Seeing that the enemy was up to something, Wood tried to protect Nana as best she could in her condition. The snakes moved around the possessed man in a disorderly manner, but their movements did not resemble an attack. Then the body seemed to melt away, and only empty skin and clothes remained, as if after a molt. Kiram is on edge, the enemy is out of sight, looks quite dangerous. Lucas was hit with snake venom, the same as Wood, after which she fell down exhausted. But now it is a completely different attack. This liquid is not poison, but the enemy itself, having taken on its true form. Its slug-like body is capable of taking any shape, and by entangling Lucas, the enemy is about to devour him. Our hero almost resigned himself to the end, but Kiram, ordering him to calm down, explained how to deal with something like this. Lucas fell silent, concentrating. He gathered the power of fire in his body. The enemy did not expect anything good from such calm before death. It seems his victim is not going to surrender. The fire burst out in an instant like an explosion, scattering the enemy's shapeless body in all directions. All those who were able to see the spiritual world could observe how a great force rushed like a column into the sky. Lucas surprised Kiram again. Sometimes he acts like a hopeless weakling, but sometimes he shows excellent potential and talent. The main body of the killer looked really bad. Having turned into a piece of dirt, very slowly recovering, it became possible to see the head. Lucas came closer, seeing that he had moved, and took him like some kind of wet rag. The demon curled up like an eel and, taking the form of a snake, slipped out of the hand and darted towards Nana. Wood, completely exhausted, made futile attempts to somehow protect the girl. Nana was so scared and confused that it didn't even occur to her to run away, and it was unlikely that she would have succeeded. The snake, wriggling, went around all the obstacles and dived into her body. What a beautiful body. So much spiritual energy. The hundreds of years of cultivation lost after Lucas's attack no longer seemed like such a big loss. What to do with the killer now? If we attack now, Nana will definitely suffer. Kiram assures that there's only one way out. To kill the girl. If Lucas is not able to do this, let him leave this matter to him. But our hero is not ready to make such sacrifices. There must be another way to save her. But unfortunately, the gods are not omnipotent, and Kiram takes control of the body by force. Taking a couple of steps forward, he realizes that Lucas refuses to obey. He had enough strength and will to resist. Our hero seems to show his talents only when he is seriously motivated. When the snake took over Nana's body, her own consciousness went somewhere much deeper, where she was not alone. The same beautiful girl who had external similarities was talking to her. It must have been a spirit sleeping in the body of a descendant. This spirit is much stronger than the snake, and upon awakening, she threw it out of her body and took over Nana. How long had she been sleeping that some worthless demon had become so brazen and was causing trouble in the human world? Kiram felt a familiar aura coming from Nana's guardian. Who would have thought that they would meet again under such circumstances? In ancient times, before the great catastrophe, when Kiram still existed in his body, he sat under a tree and played a melody. The fiery bird on his shoulder, with its eyes closed, enjoyed the pleasant sounds. The noise of the forest was interrupted by the splash of water. A little girl looked at him from the river. There was no demonic aura in her at all, and she was not a deity. According to her, she had no family, no loved ones, and nowhere to go. Then Kiram extended his hand to her and invited her to travel the world with him. She was surprised at first, but then happily accepted the offer. Lucas, glad that Nana would now live and that her guardian spirit was an old friend of Kiram, ran to her. But the greetings he received were not as warm as expected. The keeper stood up and swung her ice mace, preparing to attack. Lucas barely dodged. Maybe she's not herself. Maybe she has memory loss. Why is she attacking? Isn't she a friend? Pausing for a moment, the keeper quietly spoke Kiram's name. Then she furiously shouted threats to crush, trample, destroy, and rush to fulfill her promise. It was not the right time to explain, but Kiram had an excellent plan of action. Running wherever his eyes looked, Lucas could barely keep up with his keeper. Nana ran after him, swinging her mace so close that our hero felt the wind on his back. It seems Nana's guardian is quite clumsy. She tripped and lost consciousness. It is also cut off, like her vessel, or maybe she just weakened. How many owners the body changed in a short time? The spiritual power is completely gone. Lucas and Kiram are safe for a while. Our hero came closer to check how Nana was feeling. He wanted to lift her from the ground. But someone from above calmed him down. She spent too much spiritual power on her first animation. It was time to rest. Yank is sitting on the edge of the roof. He called Nana's guardian spirit by the name Angie. Kiram quickly flew up to him, apparently so that he wouldn't continue to wag his tongue. It seems Wood knows him. She ran up to find out what he was doing there, and even called him Mr. Chairman. Lucas and Kiram were confused about which chairman. Yank jumped down. Taking a small vial from his pocket, he tossed it into Wood's hands, saying that it was an antidote to the venom of the dark water snake, and that she should use it as soon as possible. Lucas asked to stop playing pranks on them. What kind of chairman is he? Just a regular trader who earns extra money on streams. But no, Mr. Yank was the chairman of the Council of Evil Spirit Hunters, and he should be given due respect. The organization was created by a few strong souls, and since there was no one who understood demons and gods better, it was no surprise that he received an invitation. Kiram became interested in whether even more than he, one of the most powerful gods, wanted to meet them. But due to the changes that have occurred in the world, even the pitiful snake of the dark waters has become more powerful. It is not surprising that there will be other strong spirits. And by the way, the snake is trying to crawl away while they are all chatting there. Lucas lifted him from the ground like a string. The demon began to beg for mercy. Yank asked if he had the book Encyclopedia of Demons, which he took from his shop. He took the book, but what good is it? He's not really interested in the autograph. But the encyclopedia has a practical use. Demons are difficult to completely destroy, but you can seal them in a book and gradually gild it. Thus, the owner of the Encyclopedia of Demons and Gods will become stronger depending on the number of demons that he imprisons in the book. Lucas opened to the page describing the serpents of the dark waters, holding the demon up to him. The book seemed to suck him in. It is only possible to place a spiritual seal if the enemy is defeated and weakened. After the sealing was completed, the snake demon turned into a crude drawing of Yank. Kiram and Lucas continued to appreciate his work. Such a big book, but what would happen if you filled every page of the encyclopedia with seals? The author, of course, took care of the reward, a personal photo album from a limited series. Lots of different photos of cosplays of different professions and characters. Here is a neko, a nun, a sailor, and in a suit. Who needs such bad taste? But while they were discussing such nonsense, someone was watching them from the roof of the building. It looks like the real fun is about to begin. There's one more thing. Since hunters get paid for the work they do, Lucas gets half for working with wood. Since the Snake of Dark Waters belongs to the 3rd rank, 200,000 is due for it. Accordingly, our hero received 100,000, which is even more than what he earns in a year. In fact, money is just a nice bonus, the real reward in the captured spirit. The Demon Hunter Association is supported by many influential people, merchants, politicians, stars. It is quite possible that each of them is a descendant of demons or gods. Lucas doesn't really care about this. What worries him much more is what to do with Nana. After hearing many jokes about the unconscious girl, our hero ordered a taxi to the hostel. It's late. The door is of course already closed, but the light is on in the guard's window. Approaching her, Lucas asked to be let inside to put his drunk friend to bed, to which he was refused. The woman has been working as a security guard for a long time. She doesn't believe in such stories. Many guys come up with different stories just to get into the women's wing. After hearing more jokes about the unconscious girl, Lucas received a napkin and a condom from the guard. Then she simply pulled the curtain. What a principled woman, but she is not to blame for anything because of the wandering students constantly coming up with ways to get around the rules. Such a strict attitude has developed. Kiram began to examine the package with curiosity to see what kind of round thing was inside. Lucas blushed deeply. He certainly didn't want to explain what methods of contraception had been invented over the past time and how to use them. Nana needed to be left somewhere for the night. He couldn't leave her to sleep on the street, so our hero booked a room for the night at the nearest hotel and took the girl there. The room gives off a strange feeling, but it's the only one available at the moment. Lucas laid Nana on the bed. Her tired and helpless look was too attractive. Turning onto her back, she muttered how hot she was. The guy couldn't control his vulgar thoughts when such a beautiful girl was lying in front of him, and Kiram was also egging him on to do various obscenities. Lucas decided to take a cool shower and take his mind off everything that had happened. Standing under the trickling water, he thought about demons and training, about the hunter organization he had learned so much about today, about how ordinary life seemed to be further and further away. I need to stop winding myself up, take a shower and fall asleep, and in the morning explain to Nana how it all happened. The girl woke up in an unfamiliar room from a terrible fever. It was hard to get used to the human body. Angie still had control over Nana's consciousness. Taking off her outerwear, she headed toward the bathroom towards the sounds of water. Lucas had already turned off the tap and was drying his hair, hearing some sounds behind him. He turned around. Angie stood in front of him with a threatening look, and she was not at all embarrassed by the fact that he was not dressed yet. But our hero was very embarrassed by this. He squealed and tried hard to hide as much as possible with a small towel. The possessed woman rushed at him with her fists, deciding to complete the murder that Kiram had promised. Lucas, dodging the hail of attacks, tried to jump out of the cramped room, in which it was completely impossible to avoid this madwoman. He managed to run out into the large room, but Angie was just as good at long-range attacks as she was at close range, and after getting hit on the head with a glass, our hero fell onto the bed. The girl hung over him, not understanding why Kiram was so weak now. Killing him in such a state made no sense. Lucas tried to say that he was a simple man. The deity was now asleep somewhere deep inside him and did not wake up. But Angie didn't want to listen to pleas for mercy. She knew for sure that this was Kiram's vessel. That was enough. Suddenly her eyes became empty. The hand that was about to take his life simply fell. Like the girl herself, the body must not have had enough rest, and the spiritual strength must have faded like that time in the alley. She fell asleep, hugging Lucas tightly. It's better not to move now. Who knows what else she'll do if she's woken up. So Lucas slept until the morning in dangerous embraces, completely motionless, until Nana herself woke him up. How to stop the screams and beating? Lucas did not have time to wake up and calmly explain everything, but the friend can be understood. She does not remember anything from the very moment the snake took over her body. And she also woke up in her underwear with a guy in a towel. But still Nana heard his words about all this being a misunderstanding and about the new guardian spirit. After the incident with the dove of envy, Nana was very afraid that her body would be taken over by a demon. Then she will turn into a monster. Her body will be partially covered with feathers, wings and claws will grow. Being possessed, she can harm people dear to her. Kiram calmed Nana down. Angie, of course, is quite a thing, but not like that fallen spirit that captured the envious friend. She can safely be considered her guardian spirit. But if she is so good, why does she always attack as soon as she comes to her senses? The reasons for this behavior are rooted in a common past with Kiram. The relationship between these two is complicated, but he is not going to tell the details yet. All this is not as important now as time. In a little while, the student will be late for her classes. Having hastily gotten ready, Lucas and Nana said goodbye at the exit of the hotel. An acquaintance accidentally saw them, hid in the bushes and took out his phone, took some pictures, muttering what a sensation it would be. And Kiram drives Lucas to training, because if it weren't for Angie, the snake would have managed to escape, because he didn't have enough strength to defeat him right away. But the hostel is full of people now, and if you go to the mountains, at this time you can run into unwanted fellow travelers. It is difficult to find a secluded place. Of course, Lucas got a lot of money. Why rack your brains if you can rent an apartment? Among the many advertisements, they found a pretty decent place to live, but the price was suspiciously low. But it's worth seeing it in person and talking to a realtor about this. Perhaps the reason is not so serious. The renovation of the apartment is amazing. The location is wonderful. The courtyard and entrance look clean and updated. Lucas couldn't find any reason to refuse the lease, and having firmly decided, he asked the realtor for a contract to sign. In order to avoid bureaucratic problems in the future, the man himself named the reason for the low cost. All the residents flee the house, saying that a ghost has appeared there. Our hero was only happy about this news, and the ghost followed him, so it no longer frightens him. There was a sound as if someone had slipped behind the sofa. The realtor ran out of the room in horror. It seems he himself is afraid to be here. Everyone has been warned, so it is better if the documents are signed in the office. In fact, the apartment had been empty for quite a long time. Layers of dust had accumulated everywhere. But our hero is full of spiritual power. Ordinary ghosts will not be able to even come close to him. For the next few hours, The great deity fussed over Lucas like a parent forcing his child to do his homework. After finishing the training, he felt like his strength had increased a little. His skill had reached the 3rd rank. Apparently, the battle with the snake had really been beneficial. But despite this, his strength was only 1,000th of what Kiram had in life. Lucas got up and went to the bathroom to wash his face and brush his teeth before going to bed. Opening the tap, he saw that instead of water, blood flowed, but some kind of fake blood. The ghost showed itself and is trying to scare with such tricks. And that's all he can do. To scare Lucas, he needs to come up with something scarier. Nothing else happened in the bathroom, but when our hero left the room, the TV turned on and there was only static on the screen. A girl slowly crawled out of it, pale as a drowned woman with long black hair like in horror films. Lucas walked up and stepped on her face, pushing her back where she had crawled from. The ghost needs to get creative. Desperate, she began to attack ineptly. It was obvious that she didn't know how to fight. She couldn't hit even once. Having deftly led the ghost under the arm, Lucas shoved her face right into the floor. Now we will find out who she really is. But the girl grabbed her forehead and burst into tears, which made our hero confused. Is this the same ghost that scares all the residents? She is not a ghost, but a spiritual entity and completely harmless. All objects have their own soul, and under certain circumstances, each object can embody its soul. Then why, instead of developing like any other spiritual entity, does it spend days frightening people who come here? In order for such creatures to evolve, they need to be near their spiritual vessel, and she was unable to fulfill this condition because her vessel had been stolen. Kiram offered to help the lost spirit. The girl was happy. Could the great god really help return the stolen item? But the help offered was not at all what was expected. An offer to incinerate the tormented creature with the flames of the sacred fire. Lucas calmed the frightened girl down. Kiram is such a joker, but what kind of demon stole her vessel? His name is Greedy Cat. He loves to collect various valuable things, among which are many spiritual vessels that embody the spiritual essence. It was decided that our hero and his guardian would defeat the demon and return what was stolen, and if they sealed the cat in the book, they would probably become even stronger. Lucas, who had generally renounced divine fire, seemed to have gotten a taste for it, justifying himself by saying that he had only recently mastered the 3rd level and wanted to try it out. The ghost knew where the thief cat was and took his rescuers there. When approaching the mountains, you can feel the demonic aura of the pursued. His shelter must be somewhere nearby where wild cats usually live. What should it look like? The cave. Greedy cats leave their shelter only when they go in search of new treasures. The rest of the time they spend near their wealth. Approaching the entrance carefully, Lucas decided that it would be better if the spiritual entity waited for them outside. On the walls of the cave, there are candles made from fish and human fat. Someone really does live here. Having reached the end, they saw a shadow falling on the wall from around the corner. It looked like a greedy cat. It looked fierce. The demon, small as a child, sat surrounded by gold and various antiques, diligently polishing an ancient bottle. Lucas demanded that the stolen goods be returned, and the greedy cat turned questioningly to see who dared to break into his lair. But these treasures did not have owners initially, so it cannot be said that they were stolen, and people are not able to appreciate the full value of each trinket. To give them something that is the same as breaking. Seeing that Lucas intended to take the priceless treasures by force, the cat prepared to defend them with all his might. Jumping on all fours, his tails lengthening, and like whips, he began to lash out randomly all around. Weren't there only 2 of them? The speed of the strikes was so great that afterimages appeared around, giving the impression of hundreds of attacks in an instant. How fast, blows with such acceleration are quite dangerous. If not for the divine fire, a person would not be able to survive such. The greedy cat, pleased with himself, began to make a victory speech, ready to spare in exchange for treasures. But it was too early to rejoice over a couple of hits. Lucas, having gotten used to it, was able to keep up with them and catch them. 2 tails are not enough to fight a god. Lucas burned them with his flame, which spread through the fur quite quickly. And then, as if by a thread, he threw the cat into a mountain of priceless riches. It was not worth celebrating the victory too early. Now he himself is lying down and smelling like a burnt cat, and Kiram is spinning around and admiring the results of the training. Apparently, both the demon and Lucas greatly underestimate each other. The greedy cat stood up, and the image of a child replaced the image of an adult woman. She was very angry that the things she had worked so hard to get were broken, and that her tails were singed. But our hero was more surprised that it was a girl and not a guy. The demon tore the tails from his body and took them in his hand as a weapon, delivering the same blows as last time, but the speed increased and the strength became much weaker, not even particularly painful. The greedy cat can not only collect spiritual treasures, but also use them. Now it will be more difficult to defeat her. The golden whip is not meant to attack. Its true ability is to turn the surface it hits into gold. This means that very soon Lucas will turn into a golden man. The so-called spiritual treasure is an item created from a large amount of blood and spiritual energy, and usually each such treasure has its own unique magical property. This cat was able to create its own spiritual treasure, and perhaps it is worth simply cutting off its hands so that this golden infection does not spread. If Lucas trains hard, he will be able to grow new ones in 70 to 80 years with the help of divine power. It seems that Kiram is not aware of the duration of human life, and if they stand there chatting, it will become even shorter. The greedy cat can't wait to make Lucas the crown jewel of his collection. He needs to hit him again to speed up the transformation. As long as the demon is waving his golden whip, our hero won't be able to get any closer, and by the way, if she has a spiritual treasure, then the most ancient deity should have one too, right? Of course there is, and his name is Banye, but Kiram hasn't seen him since he sealed himself, and who knows where to look after so much time. What impudence to underestimate the enemy like that and allow yourself to chat with the keeper about life during the battle. While Lucas was distracted by conversation, the greedy cat ran behind him and caught him by the left leg with her tail. She swung it and sent it flying, and our hero's body pierced the wall. It seems that the cave is not so simple and has many hidden passages to various secret rooms. Despite the fact that the demoness herself had let Lucas into her armory, she did not blame herself at all for its destruction. A metal flail fell from the shelves onto the head of a greedy cat. Is she trying to kill our hero or herself? Lucas felt for the knife with his hand and immediately threw it at the enemy. He doesn't have a throwing weapon, but what else is left? Maybe he'll get lucky. Resists like a mouse cornered. The cat never harmed anyone, only collected abandoned trinkets. Lucas himself broke into her home and attacked. He himself came for his own death. The cat wrapped its tails around him, and the gold gradually covered his body, without even using half of its strength. While Kiram felt a very familiar aura in the armory, his spiritual weapon was somewhere nearby. Rushing from side to side, he tried to find it faster. Together with Banye, they would make this cat in no time. Lucas closed his eyes and concentrated, trying to release at least some strength to free himself. He tried to feel the weapon and asked for help, and Banye heard him, and jumping up from his place, he flew straight into the hands of the new master of the divine flame. Lucas swung his halberd, cutting off the tails that bound him, everything filled with fire. The gold that had grown on his body melted and flowed onto the stones. Now he was completely free. His body was filled with energy that was not restrained by anything. As if there had been no fight, even more, he felt much stronger. How is this possible? The tails were simply cut off. This is the same halberd that the cat found in the forest about 30 years ago. It seems that Benier accepted Lucas as his new master and gave all his power at his complete disposal. The cat realized that she had lost and began to ask for mercy, since she had only played a little bit, nothing more. The attack of the divine spiritual weapon was impressive, like a volcano erupting. The spiritual entity that was waiting for their return watched from the side as a powerful spiritual force rushed through the mountain. Surprisingly, the greedy cat survived. Although he was no longer able to continue the fight, Lucas brought the halberd to the neck of the defeated woman. She, of course, was not a coward, but now she understood who was in charge here. The demon turned into a small kitten and begs for mercy. She only looked for magical wonders and did not touch people with a finger, promising to listen and obey in everything. Kiram noticed that there was no evil aura emanating from her. Most likely the cat really had not done anything bad. Well, their new apartment lacks a pet to complete the coziness, and Lucas gave his new cat a not very original nickname, Kitty. And the treasures that she dragged in need to be returned to their rightful owners. That would be the right thing to do. But there are so many of them that it won't be possible to manage them all at once. Kotia handed Lucas one of her magical wonders, a ring called Shumi, in which inanimate objects can be placed, and the stronger its owner, the more things can be placed in it. Lucas's strength was enough to take absolutely everything, and at that very moment an earthquake began. As it turned out, the greedy cat was holding back the mountain with his spiritual power, and since it was all spent in the battle, it was better for them to run away quickly. There was a collapse, and Lucas did not have time to run out of the cave. There were fragments of memories left. Someone saved him from the collapse, and was there the whole time. Lucas lay on the soft chest and then passed out again. I woke up in the hospital. Thanks to divine power, my body had almost recovered and did not experience severe pain. Emma, who was sitting next to him, was very happy that he had finally woken up and was interested in his condition. Why is she here and everything is quite strange? Lucas clearly remembers that he was buried under a mountain quite deep in a cave. And that's right. Emma was on an evening jog when she heard a loud crash. Running towards the noise, she found her friend under the rubble and immediately called an ambulance. But why run to the mountains at night? And what did Lucas himself forget in the mountains at night? And he began to come up with excuses about a sudden desire to walk in nature. Who could have thought that this would happen? Well, all's well that ends well. Emma put her hand on his shoulder and pressed her head to his chest. It seems like these memories are about her. Lucas was lying unconscious in her arms. Or maybe it's just a dream. I don't think about anything indecent. Our hero pressed himself to the chest and began to mumble that the sensations were the same. At such an inopportune moment, Wood and Nana entered the room. They came to visit their sick friend. Seeing such an indecent scene, it seemed that Lucas was beside himself with pleasure. What are they doing here? Everything is not at all as it seems. Our hero imagined a childhood friend, and he would not take advantage of her kindness. Emma emphasized that a tomboy like her would not be liked by him. Wood was well versed in such matters. With such a face, you only need to add a little makeup. And what a figure, not the slightest hint of fat. Did they all come to visit Lucas? It seems that everything is not quite so. Nana came to remind us about the planned joint training. And Wood came to offer a job, a task with a good reward, as well as difficulty, turned up, and help wouldn't hurt. But if Lucas doesn't help with the training, then Nana will completely lose control over her guardian spirit, which Wood doesn't agree with. Who is he to constantly follow her around? Emma didn't understand what kind of training and tasks they were doing. Lucas imagined them as crazy otaku. That's why they were saying strange things. It's time to choose. Nana seems furious, and Wood has no desire to refuse. It doesn't matter who our hero chooses. The other one will still be offended. It's time to take advantage of the brotherly oath and not just turn men away from Emma. And they said that they had already signed up for one group for her club's event. And if he didn't come, he would really let Emma down. The reason sounded convincing enough, but next time it's better not to skip training. Wood invited Emma for coffee and suggested they become friends. The girls seemed to get along well with each other and decided to leave the sick man and go about their girly business. Kiram was proud of himself after his appearance. Beauties began to constantly circle around Lucas, such a charmer and heartthrob. By the way, does he remember what happened yesterday? But the keeper fell asleep as soon as his vessel lost consciousness. Through the open window, Kocha jumped into the room, saying that a descendant of some spirit had saved him from under the rubble. But the demon can't say anything more. While she dug her way to the surface, they were already carried away somewhere. Could Emma really be that very descendant? But Kiram would most likely immediately sense the presence of the guardian spirit in her. But he didn't notice the sleeping Angie, even though they had crossed paths with Nana so many times before they learned about her abilities. But let's put it aside. Where did the spiritual entity go? Whose item they came to look for at Coty's? It was worth remembering about her, as she appeared directly from the ring in which all the riches were kept. While Lucas lay in the hospital bed, surrounded by treasures, the spirit was finally able to find its spiritual vessel. Our hero found this funny. It turns out that her vessel is an ordinary hairbrush, similar to an antique one. This is a jade anaruba, and everyone will know that it was used by girls of the imperial family, but how is this not a comb? The nurses stood outside the door, trying to decide what to do with the patient who was talking to himself, whether to send him to a psychiatrist or for tests. The next day, as agreed, Lucas went to the mountain for Emma's club event. My friend was never late, but today she disappeared. It's not even clear whether it's worth worrying about. Lucas continued to wait. Everyone around was almost ready to move. And then finally she came up and asked how long he had been standing there. He turned around irritably, but saw Emma in a rather unusual feminine form. Wood convinced her to go get hair extensions, saying she wanted to help her change her image, most likely seeing her sympathy for Lucas. An announcement was made before the start. Groups of 3 people must gather. No detours are allowed. The group that reaches the top of the mountain first will win. But while Wood was filling Emma's head with various girly beauty secrets, she completely forgot about the groups. A man approached them. wanting to join if the place was not taken and if they both were okay with it. They already know each other. The same captain of the basketball club, Leo, Lucas's sparring partner from the gym. Emma and Lucas were standing before the start, realizing that their team was one person short of participating in the climb up the mountain when a guy approached them and asked to join. The girl remembered where she could have seen him before, the same basketball club captain Leo, whom Lucas knocked out with one blow. Our hero immediately thought that something was wrong here. He must have come to avenge that defeat, and if he needed a rematch, then he would get it. There was a lot of power in that blow. Leo still feels it. But having admitted defeat, he suggested that it would be better to form a group and leave all disagreements in the past. You can't tell from his appearance that he's trying to deceive them. Is he really serious, and can we not be afraid that somewhere in the mountains, alone, he has selfish goals? Lucas and Leo shook hands. The team was formed. With such a lineup, they would definitely be able to take first place. Having set off along the route, Emma walked energetically ahead of the guys, simultaneously enjoying the scenery. Leo behaved adequately, and the rest of the team stopped looking at him with suspicion and expecting a stab in the back. Lucas couldn't take his eyes off his girlfriend. Before, he always perceived her as a tomboy. But in her new image, he was able to notice what a beauty she really was. After drinking the water, Emma handed the bottle to Lucas, which confused him greatly, wondering if this would be considered an indirect kiss. I found something to think about. They have been friends for as long as they drink from the same bottle, but today I am not myself next to her. Leo doubted the sincerity of their statement. Maybe they weren't really dating each other. Emma and Lucas quickly got closer to each other. Why such thoughts? They are so close. But this closeness is still more like friendship than a romantic relationship, with which our hero agreed. After talking about something like this, the girl became upset and lowered her head. Lucas, not understanding what could have offended her, tried to find out what was wrong. Raising her head with a sad smile, Emma said that she was hungry and went into the forest to collect firewood for a fire to cook food. Lucas wanted to keep her company, but his friend asked to leave her alone. Having gone to a secluded place, the girl kicked a tree, cursing what a fool our hero was. How can he even say something like that after she saved him with such difficulty? Meanwhile, Lucas sat wondering what it was. Emma seemed not herself today, and who would understand these women anyway? Leo broke the silence by talking about how he envied our hero for being able to become Emma's boyfriend, because she always walks around so happy, like a miniature sun at the gym. Leo had always been weak before, but when he saw Emma competing, he immediately decided to change himself. Naively believing that if he could become strong enough, Emma would accept his feelings. However, at that moment, he had no idea that she already had a boyfriend. You can't force someone to be nice, but strength can come in handy in other ways. Leo asked Lucas if he could do him a favor. Kiram tensed up from that tone. He needed to be careful, something was wrong. Leo's hand grew before our eyes, becoming the size of an adult's body. It seemed that strength could be useful not only in love, but also in revenge. And the request he wanted to ask was to die. Lucas was so surprised that he didn't have time to react to the rather strong blow, which sent him flying to the side. There is no way to retreat. There is a cliff behind. We will have to respond in kind, and it looks like after the last meeting, the enemy's body was possessed by a demon, which is very dangerous for Emma. We need to figure this out here and now, otherwise it is not known what else this possessed person is capable of. Lucas ran in the other direction. Perhaps he did not want to attack head-on. Emma just came out of the forest. Seeing the demon, she dropped the collected brushwood. Where is Lucas? Leo said that he swatted his opponent, and all because he was much weaker than him. Emma ran to look for her friend, but the demon grabbed her with his huge palm, demonstrating his strength and superiority. He tried his luck again and offered to date. Seeing Leo holding his friend tightly, Lucas decided to attack by jumping from the rocks above. Emma was glad that he was okay, but this joy did not last as long as she would have liked. Lucas, in flight, asked the monster to die. The same one, having abandoned the girl, sent our hero flying again. It seems Leo was angry that they dared to call him a monster. Having caught the halberd on the descent, Lucas managed to not fly down. What a powerful force. But there was no demonic aura emanating from the enemy at all. The fact that our hero did not die so quickly made Leo happy, because it would give him the opportunity to show his true strength. And he called upon his guardian spirit, the divine spirit of Rhine, which is rather strange. Is it possible to be possessed by a deity? But Leo is not at all possessed. In order to destroy Lucas, he decided to borrow a little power. Rain obeyed his master and immediately went on the attack, crushing the ground with his weapon. Kiram knew from the start that something was wrong without feeling the demonic aura. He had to be careful with such an opponent. Swinging his halberd, Lucas surrounded himself with a shield of incinerating flame. Taking a running start, he jumped on Leo, confident in himself since the bulky opponent was moving too slowly. But despite this, Rain easily stopped the attack with brute force. The metal screeched from the impact and sparks flew. This fight is not like the previous ones. The power of the Divine Spirit Receivers is completely different from the demons that Lucas fought before. The power of the deity Rain is not only in brute strength and hand enlargement, he gave Leo the ability to change the size of his body and turn into a giant. Our hero was, to put it mildly, surprised by this. Before this, those possessed by demons only grew wings or horns. And then a real giant appeared before him, and he promised that he wouldn't leave a single wet spot of Lucas. The battle axe also increased in size. With one blow, it seemed as if the mountain would break into many pieces. People nearby started spinning around in fear. What should they do if it was an earthquake? But the giant didn't think about anyone except Lucas. He couldn't live peacefully. He shouldn't have taken his girlfriend away. Now he'll have to pay. But don't forget that our hero can also fly, which will allow him to hit not only toes. Jumping up to Leo's head, Lucas hit him in the neck with a spinning kick. It hurt, but the giant's neck was too big. Our hero circled around like a midge and cut the thick skin with a burning halberd, although the enemy became stronger from such growth, but the speed was significantly reduced. But Lucas was full of strength, and Leo fell to his knees from minor but numerous wounds. It's no wonder that the monkey god Lewis was able to deal with Rain so easily in the distant past. Found something to remember, Leo screamed. But not from horror, it was the roar of a giant. Lucas thought that his head was about to burst and grabbed his ears in confusion. Taking advantage of the favorable moment, the enemy captured our hero. According to him, he actually wanted to be friends with Lucas. It's a pity that he turned out to be Emma's boyfriend. We can't allow anyone else to love her. The girl, trying to stop what was happening, shouted the whole truth and emphasized that whether she was free or not, Leo was still disgusting to her, which didn't calm him down at all, putting on such a show for the sake of a refusal, and the giant directed his anger at Emma. But Lucas managed to cover his friend from the blow with his body. If you love someone, don't you want to see that person happy? Leo's feelings can't be called love. Let it be so. The giant swung his big fist at the couple. Let them die together and do whatever they want in hell. From behind Lucas, something equally powerful flew at Leo, the fist of another giant. Emma also grew in size and effortlessly beat up the inadequate admirer. It turns out that Lucas was right. His childhood friend is the descendant of the deity who saved him. Our hero doesn't waste time. It's better to sort everything out later, and deals the exhausted Leo the decisive blow. The giant fell to the ground, returning to human size again. With this problem solved for a while, Leo lies unconscious on the ground, and Lucas goes to his friend to find out what happened. She stamped her feet in fear, which was noticeable given her size, and after she sat down, this giant was not at all as slow as Leo. The mountain shook. Emma is very uncomfortable because she is standing in a rather open position and cannot hide because of her size. Lucas noticed, which was hard not to do, that she should move more slowly. In such a huge form, Emma was not quite able to control her movements. It is worth accepting her normal state and then calmly talking. The girl released the guardian spirit. Her body took on its natural dimensions. Looking at her, Lucas became embarrassed, shy, and began to mumble and stutter, trying to say something. Emma never wanted to deceive anyone, but as soon as she started making excuses, Lucas finally managed to pull himself together. Closing his eyes, he told the girl that she had no clothes at all after the reduction. This was always the case after such transformations. It's good that our hero took a change of clothes with him on the hike. Turning away from Emma so as not to further embarrass her, Lucas took his spare kit out of his bag and handed it to her. While she was changing, the guys couldn't pretend that nothing had happened and talked a little about what they had seen. The girl got dressed, but going out to the guys was still tense and awkward. Lucas decided to introduce her to his guardian spirit and find out since when she has been hiding it. Emma's deity is named Robin. Does Lucas remember how his high school girlfriend disappeared for a month? In fact, she was suffering from a serious illness at the time, which weakened all her organs, and it was then that she met Robin. The deity appeared before her, offering to become her vessel and cheat death. Lucas remembers this moment. Now it is clear why Emma got into sports and transferred to a class with a sports focus. But Robin has nothing to do with it. It's all for the sake of a guy who seems to really like energetic girls. You can't say that openly, Emma, embarrassed. Shut Robin's mouth. All this is not to please someone, but to get into a sports university. Kiram put a stop to all conversations. He had known the deity named Robin for a long time, and he looked like a healthy, muscular man. But in front of them was a girl. The Robin clan is not just one person. The one Kiram is talking about must be the clan leader, or someone against the girls. If Emma hadn't grown in size that day, those super cool firemen would have been left under the rubble. Waking up in the hospital, Lucas thought that the memory of him lying on someone's chest was just a dream, but it turns out. Emma was very embarrassed. Our hero was seriously injured, and this was the only way to put him down permanently. She ran into Robin's arms, hoping that she would support her. How could she get married after this? While Leo lay unconscious, the god Rhine showed himself. What kind of bastard dared to raise a hand against him? The fire god Kiram and the giant clan goddess Robin did not keep us waiting long for an answer. They don't remember a deity named Rain. There must be some small god. But in fact, he is only not so great in comparison to them. Kiram and Robin reacted unkindly to requests for mercy. How can one give birth to ordinary people? Unworthy behavior for such a status. But Rain's soul is in confusion. He himself cannot understand what happened. 1,000 years ago, after all existence was destroyed, his body was no exception, and he continued to wander the world as a crippled, disembodied spirit. Suddenly, his soul was seized by something unknown, and from that very moment, there were no more memories. And when he regained consciousness, he saw all this. Kiram heard about similar magic that can control spiritual entities, but he personally never encountered it. It's worth finding Yank. Lucas asked Emma to take care of Leo while he and Kiram tried to help the confused deity. Having contacted Yank, they found out in which area of the city he could be found. We even got a geolocation of the location of the demon hunter community. But of course they expected the place to be more secluded, but they put their makeup on the association's sign right above the entrance to some cafe. Isn't that too flashy? Once they got inside, they were greeted by Yank dressed as a cute waitress. Isn't this the center of a serious organization? The Maid Cafe is a great disguise to divert attention. So Yank serves regular customers in his spare time, a rather profitable business. And the association's sign is seen only by those who have guardian spirits, while ordinary people see a nice cafe sign. After leading Lucas through the entire establishment, Yank led him to the farthest closed room. Where is the main office of the Association of Hunters of the Possessed located? Without having time to really show what and where it was, Yank went to serve the new customers of the cafe. You wouldn't be able to tell at all that he is an ancient divine beast. Walking between the tables, Lucas came across a monitor displaying the ranking of the spirit hunters. At 79th place, they saw a familiar face. Who knew Wood was so cool? Our hero decided to use the system and see if there was any information about him. Place 9,527. He certainly didn't expect a high place, but he couldn't think that it would be so low. And for Kiram, this is completely unacceptable. This car is broken in any case. A man came up from behind and asked me to get out of the way. Lucas politely let the beautiful girl pass. She looks cute and fragile, red eyes and a lollipop in her teeth. Everyone around immediately turned around as if he had said something terrible. She seemed to be very angry that Lucas called her a girl. Opening her outer clothing, she asked to look at her male body. Lucas and Kiram's eyes were immediately drawn to the obviously female breasts. The girl was very embarrassed. Why stare like that? She's a man. She reacted aggressively to the statement that the body was clearly female. There were other fools who called her that, and it only took a couple of hard blows to convince them otherwise. Lucas didn't even try to dodge the blow. He caught the fist in the moment, and then he threw her over his shoulder. Maybe that would cool her down and bring her to her senses. But right at the ground, the girl twisted, jumped back, and landed on her feet. It looks like Lucas isn't as weak as the rest of his predecessors. But this does not cancel the conflict. Both are ready to teach each other a lesson. People around started whispering. The newcomer decided to fight him. He must really be a fearless guy. Everyone began to guess what kind of guardian spirit he had. It must be one of the fire deities. The fight continued on equal terms, but at some point Lucas stopped the blow. You can't hit a girl in the chest, which caused him to open up and take a hit, after which he decided to end it all. Grabbing hands, they burst into flames and came face to face. The girl grabbed him tighter and then pulled out a couple more hands from behind her back. She slammed our hero to the floor with all her might. Although it was not possible to convince Lucas by force, at least now he understood who was in charge here. Wood suddenly appeared, bending down to ask for leniency from Mr. Nezi. Neza is a male god. Why does this guy look so much like a girl? Which made the girl, who is a guy at heart, get excited again, and Wood start to calm down again. Yank returned from the visitors. It was worth leaving for a short while, and then everyone managed to fight. Having learned the reason for the disagreement, he explained to Lucas that in front of him was actually Mr. Neja, a guy. During the catastrophe thousands of years ago, the deities who lost their bodies settled in the human world as souls. But Neza is different. He appeared from a lotus flower. Therefore, by placing his soul back inside the lotus, he was able to be reborn. But during his reincarnation, something went wrong and his body became more like a woman's. Poor Neza, certainly a man who is unwittingly burdened with living in a woman's body. It's sad, but Yank in such an outfit is just a cutie, nothing can be done. Everyone around him acted like his fans, shouting that he was the best. Lucas decided to apologize to Neja for such a misunderstanding and promised not to call him a girl anymore. But their dispute with Kiram continued about which of them was the greater and more important god. Everyone around, having heard that the newcomer's guardian was the great god of fire, now surrounded Lucas. Yank helped me get out of the crowd of fans. He has that skill. Every time some famous deity appears in the association, a bacchanalia immediately begins. Yank's office looks like a place of self-admiration. The walls are covered with posters and the shelves are filled with figurines. Every time they enter the room, Wood and Neja also feel uneasy. It's time to talk about why Lucas was looking for Jank. After hearing Ryan's story, he wanted to meet in person. Opening his encyclopedia, Lucas commanded the spirit to appear. It seems that they are familiar with Neja. Rain recognized His Majesty the Third Prince, and he also asked why he looked so much like a girl. Nezi's reaction to this is, as usual, explosive. Realizing who was controlling the spirit, Yank walked up to Rain and started doing something. From his essence, using methods not entirely clear to those around him, he extracted a worm, Beetle, the captor of souls, one of the very rare monsters that, in combination with magic, can penetrate the souls of living beings and then control them. Now only one demon owns this art. Vigo is a member of the great 7 demon kings, who are at the origins of the alliance to eliminate the gods. Lucas couldn't understand what they were talking about. Meanwhile, in a building located somewhere in the wilderness, the demons discussed their plans. Jars of red liquid hang like garlands from the ceiling of Vigo's room. These jars contain the heads of people who had guardian gods during their lifetime. Wind demon Diana reported on Rain's failure and that he had been captured by Lucas. Nearby, the lightning demon Ethan expressed his hatred of the gods and his desire to wait for the time when the world would become a true home for demons. But Rain completed his task, so it doesn't matter. There's one less scum, and Diana and Ethan can begin to carry out their mission. While Nana is feeling down, it won't be hard to get her guardian spirit Angie. Wanting to quickly restore his head, Vigo hurried his minions. There are 7 demons who managed to preserve their bodies using various means, as well as some deities, such as Yanka and Neja. They united and created an organization whose goal is to destroy the race of deities. However, the demonic alliance has not been particularly active for several hundred years, so it is difficult to say what prompted them to act this time. Neza is confident that he can single-handedly blow them to smithereens. But after rebirth, the male god is no longer so strong. You can join forces with Kiram. He is also an ancient god after all, but you should be careful, because if the demonic alliance has begun to act, danger will be waiting at every step. Lucas and Neza excitedly discussed how the demons wouldn't be able to scare them, and Yank noticed that there was no need to worry about them. The guys were strong enough to defend themselves, but there were still many descendants of the gods in the world, and not every one of them knew about it. It's true, it's worth finding out how Nana is doing. The Demon Alliance most likely knows about Angie. Nezha went to discuss with Wood who this Nana was. Lucas managed to get through to his friend. She spoke very quietly. Out of excitement, he began to ask a lot of unintelligible questions about how she was and where she was. Nana is sitting in the cinema with her friend at the premiere of a film. The most interesting episode is about to be shown. On the screen, an enraged bear is walking towards the main character, waving its paw, and the canvas seems to be cut in half. The lightning demon Ethan appeared in front of the girls. Nana and her friend screamed and ran out of the hall. The call had not yet ended, and from the sounds coming from the phone, Lucas realized that he had better hurry. The situation is quite dangerous. Neza offered to take Lucas on his ring of fire. The former deity Neza was able to move with the help of fire rings even through the air. But due to the reincarnation, this ability was lost. Now the fire ring is the name of a brand new motorcycle. At this speed, Lucas was afraid that the wind would simply blow him away. But they arrived at the place quite quickly. Neza stood up and went inside. Realizing that Lucas was not around, he went back to hurry him because Nana was in danger. The same one stood leaning against the front door. Our hero was not used to riding motorcycles, especially at such a speed. He needed a little time to come to his senses. And in the corridor, Maya and Nana were running from the violent monster, trying to get out of the building as quickly as possible. Without worrying about the interior of the cinema building, the demon destroyed everything around him. While Nana tried to somehow protect herself and her friend, she hasn't mastered that many techniques, so getting into a fight would be stupid. But water conducts electricity, which is why the demon's lightning pierced the girl's entire body. Lucas was a little late to help. Nana's whole body became numb. She would no longer be able to use spiritual power, which meant she would not be able to protect herself in any way. The demon prepared to attack again, gathering peals of electricity around itself. Having entrusted Nana to Neze's protection, Lucas prepared to take the fight. At first, the male bomb objected. It was not proper for a prince to coddle anyone, but Lucas assured that now it would be difficult for him to control his power. It would be safer that way. Swinging Banier's halberd, our hero dealt a fiery blow to the enemy. Ethan clamped the blade between his teeth without any effort. What strength! In today's world, it is quite easy for a lightning demon to obtain a huge amount of energy. Neza, chewing popcorn, watched the performance with interest. In this situation, the enemy was really strong. Creating a powerful ball lightning in his hand, Ethan launched it to hit Lucas and Kiram. But when faced with the divine flame attack, it immediately scattered. The demon expected this attack to be his last, but his opponent managed to respond. With that kind of electrical power, he can't even handle Pikachu. But he fixed the guy's hair with his rank. And in general, Neza stands aside and does nothing, so let him at least keep his comments to himself. Ethan is offended by such behavior. How dare they chat and joke during the fight? His attack sent electricity all over the floor. Lucas managed to jump, but what about the others? Neza lifted the girls into the air without any problems. There was no need to worry when they were under the protection of the great god. The electricity spread to the walls and ceiling, turning the room into a web and everyone inside into butterflies with no way to escape. At the cinema, Lucas can't use his full power because it would destroy the building, but he has an idea. By lighting a bigger fire around himself, Lucas caused the fire alarms to go off. The whole room began to fill with water. Ethan laughed and put out his own flame. Neza seemed to understand what kind of plan had arisen in Lucas's head. Unaware of anything, the lightning demon attacked with an electric whip. The random discharges quickly approached the source like a chain. The demon's body was thoroughly fried by its own attack. Ethan probably knows that water is a good conductor of electricity, but he should know that it can also cause short circuits. The demon knelt down and sparkled, as if he himself was about to turn into lightning. That's right. By turning his entire body into one powerful electric charge, he hoped to fry everyone in the room. Electricity caused chaos in the street. Power poles fell. Passers-by began to run away from the cinema, but not everyone could escape. The girl was saved by a handsome blonde man who picked her up in his arms and ran away. There's no need to cry. The baby is safe now. The boy was safe too, but the man who saved him looked as dangerous as a falling pole. Where Mr. Neza is, there is always complete chaos. Lucas managed to gather all his strength and pin down from the powerful attack. But partly, it's good that this blow was fatal. Our hero will not be able to fight anymore. The wind blew through the room. Diana came to finish her work. She could not even imagine that her comrade was capable of sacrificing himself to complete the mission. And he sent her to quickly carry the victim to the owner. Even before his death, he continues to be rude, but there is no need to worry. Diana can handle the delivery herself. Neza rushed at the demoness. Nana is under his protection and nothing can happen to her. But Diana was carried away as if she herself were the wind. Unable to do anything, Lucas desperately tried to just get to his feet. But as soon as he stood up, he lost consciousness and fell into Nezi's arms. Ben and Dustin came at just the right time. They were tasked with delivering the demon and Lucas to the association. But Neza doesn't seem to be planning to return. He will go in search of the demons who attacked and kidnapped Nana. After sleeping for 3 days, Lucas finally came to his senses. Opening his eyes, he saw something. The cat fell asleep on his chest, but her butt should have been in the other direction. Yank, dressed as a nurse, came to treat a patient. What a circus! Katya and her ass flew into the face of the cosplayer. And where does he always get such shameful costumes? And the greedy cat is quite heavy to sleep on the chest. Yank and Katya put on a pitiful look in order to receive forgiveness. Lucas suddenly remembered what happened. Jumped up. How did he get here and what happened to Nana? Neza just entered the room and told Lucas how many days he had slept, and also that the association had sent a group of hunters to search for his girlfriend. Unable to contain his emotions, Lucas blamed everything on his new ally. But don't blame Neja. Everyone makes mistakes. And besides, he's been searching for 3 days without closing his eyes. And he understands Lucas perfectly well, so he won't pay attention to such impulses. Looking down at the guy, our hero blushed deeply as he observed the woman's breasts. You can't understand why Mr. Neja got a slap in the face. He himself denies his female body. Lucas received a message on his phone, saying that the sender knows where to find Nana. A couple of hours later, our hero arrived at the appointed place. Neza came for him to see the man who managed to find what he could not. Waiting for them at the table was Maya, Nana's friend, whom they certainly didn't expect to see. Neza ordered ice cream and loudly raved about how delicious it was, which drew the attention of all the men in the restaurant to him, who would like to turn into ice cream melting in her mouth, which made Neja send them away rather rudely. From a cutie, she turned into a terrible monster. And Lucas started the conversation they had gathered for. Did she really know where to find Nana? Or was she just back to her old ways? Since the envy dove left her body, she has returned to normal. However, after this, some abilities awakened in her body. People possessed by spirits awaken their own spiritual abilities, and this cannot be changed. But then Maya comes out and can see Kiram. She is not afraid at all. She even thinks that the two of them look very good together. It was immediately clear from her face what she was thinking. Putting his hand on Maya's face, Lucas asked her to stop imagining such terrible things and instead tell him what was going on with the search. That magical feather, embodied by spiritual power, 3 days ago, taking advantage of the moment, she inserted the same one into Nana's hair. And following the second feather as a compass, you can come to the first, but by tomorrow the feathers will disappear. Maya can't fight, so this is the only thing she can do to help. Neza fell on Lucas's shoulder. He hadn't closed his eyes for 3 days to find Nana, and now he finally fell asleep. It's just that the location he chose was a little inappropriate. Our hero took him to his home, where Kotya and the spirit of the Scratcher immediately appreciated her beauty. But no matter how cute she is, the position she sleeps in is terrible. The pen won't last long. There's no time to ask the association for help. And will it work alone? How opportunely Emma came to visit Lucas. Not at all modestly flying through the door, passing by and decided to come in and offer to eat together. Here's some help. With her giantess powers, she will definitely be a good support. Lucas began to beg for help in saving him, but it was not worth asking Emma. Having heard such news, she would have asked for it without being asked. It was no time to waste time on words. Her friend grabbed Lucas herself and hurried him to search. The pen led them to a lonely house in a private sector of the city, in its most remote part. There is not a soul around. Only 2 guys are standing at the entrance, an aura of the possessed emanating from them. But they don't seem dangerous. Emma and Robin expressed a desire to go and deal with them together. But you can't just break in, and her spirit form is too big and will immediately attract attention. Lucas suggested using the beauty plan. Emma should take the role of the decoy girl. This will definitely work, because she is the most beautiful athlete in their university. What a compliment from Lucas. Let the transformation into a beauty begin. Using spiritual power, Emma grew her hair long. Now you can confidently go and lure guys into your feminine nets. The Robin clan's powers allow Emma to both change her body size and change, for example, the length of her hair and skin color. Lucas is a student guy and can't control his fantasies about such abilities, for which he received a slap on the back of the head from an embarrassed girl. The demons at the entrance were discussing the beautiful Diana, when they would be able to find themselves an equally beautiful wife. And quite opportunely, Emma came up, pretending to be a fragile girl, asking for help in finding the way home. And then they surrounded her like vultures surrounding a defenseless victim. Lucas and Kiram waited for the right moment when these 2 pawns would let their guard down. Then There was no need to make any more plans. Emma couldn't stand such impudent treatment and knocked them out without any perfume. How could they be so shameless as to take advantage of a defenseless girl? As soon as Lucas ran out of the ambush, Windy blades began flying from above. Grabbing Emma in his arms, he deftly dodged them, leaving impressive cuts on the ground. It wasn't possible to sneak in unnoticed. Now I'll have to fight the wind demon Diana on her own territory. In addition to her abilities, she has many wind traps around her, and it's quite difficult to get to the forehead. She just blows Lucas away with the wind. There is a spell in this place that strengthens the wind demons. If you start a fight, you might not get to Nana. In addition to the breath of wind, Diana also has a hurricane defense. It is difficult to get even half a step closer. Emma took the form of a giant. Now the hurricane is like a light breeze for her. If the enemy is the size of a mountain, then for the wind blades he is just a huge target. Lucas should leave Diana with an ally and rush inside to find Nana. After all, Emma is full of strength, which cannot be said about her other friend. And if she does not hurry, she may die. And like a spark, our hero rushed to the building. The main thing is to make it in time. Diana aimed multiple blades, hoping to smooth Lucas's path, but Emma erected a natural wall, giving her friend a chance to run faster without being distracted. Our hero slammed his fist into the door and burst inside. The many possessed people just outside the door turned to face him. They will not allow you to go further and disturb their master. But in order to carry out what has been said, you need to have much more strength. Meanwhile, Vigo performed a ritual to extract the guardian spirit from Nana's body. Suspended from the ceiling, she barely retained consciousness. The ritual was almost over. All that was left was to light the last incense, and then the demon would receive the power of the divine spirit. Lucas also burst into this room unceremoniously, and it turns out that an ordinary mummy was behind everything. Vigo will have to answer with his head for kidnapping our hero's woman. Such big words, considering that so many wounds were received from small, obsessed pawns. If you look closely, among all the blood on Lucas, there is not a drop that belongs to him. Soon Vigo's blood would sprinkle his body. Lucas ran to attack, but the enemy whispered something and a whirlwind swirled in the air. The smoke thickened and extinguished Lucas's flame, and then a masked man emerged from the fire. He introduced himself as the true Fire Reaper Bart, who had the guts to introduce himself as a Fire Reaper in front of Lucas. Now he will experience for himself what the flame of true fire really is. A pair of fire weapons met in a confrontation on equal terms. But Kiram seems to be familiar with Bart. Vigo subdued him. Now he has to fight with his own. While Lucas fended off the attacks, his keeper admired his fine spear technique. It would be better if you helped me figure out what to do next, instead of just admiring it. Bart was really good with the spear. It almost reached its target. Gathering Banier's strength, Lucas delivered a powerful, fiery blow, which hit the enemy and he flew far back. Bart is a scarlet child of fire, a child of goodness and prosperity, so why does he serve a demon like Vigo? But he didn't answer. He stood up silently, the mask flew off his face from the last blow. Lucas stared at his beautiful face. Why didn't he manage to dodge the spear? A little more and Nana would have been deadly. While they fought, Vigo lit the last incense and completed the ritual. Lucas, being able to continue, grabbed the spear with one hand. Another used a move he had invented himself, calling it the Fire Hammer Strike. This blow was decisive. The enemy fell and never rose again. Without wasting a second, Lucas rushed to attack Vigo. But it was too late. Bart had stalled for time long enough. Nana's spiritual power was already leaving her body. She felt it, pain and weakness. And she found a new refuge in Vigo's body, the demon's long-awaited prey. Lucas's attack was immediately reflected by the water element, and a heavy wave hit his entire body. Our hero was overcome with severe pain, and the blow he received was not only physical. What a powerful spiritual power. The demon freely used Angie's powers. The soul-stealing inscription is capable of forcibly taking away the soul of a guardian spirit. Thus, Vigo was able to fully restore his powers. Water is stronger than fire. Now the demon has set his sights on attacking and visiting Kiram. Lucas fully appreciated Angie's true strength as he defended himself and prepared to attack back. It is better not to rush into trouble, and rather to dodge, because the enemy has the advantage. Vigo's blow knocked the flames away and flew loudly into the wall. Lucas managed to jump up. This attack cut a hole into the street, through which another battle can be seen. Diana continued to launch branch blades without end. But Emma couldn't attack and only continued to defend herself when she was exhausted. There was only a little bit left before her spiritual energy ran out. Vigo's water attack, breaking through the wall of the building, flew and pierced Emma's natural shield. The demonic aura of the master, he managed to perform the ritual and absorb the power. Diana assumed that this meant that he managed to defeat the boy who slipped through. This news gave Emma more motivation to hurry up. She needed to finish quickly and run to her friends. Diana is confident that in such a small form, without mastering the technique of air control, the enemy will not be able to reach her. But Emma deftly jumped over the ramp she had created while defending herself. You need to hit her with one blow because she really doesn't have any aerial fighting skills. In an attempt to push Emma away, Diana created a storm. You can't dodge, otherwise your only chance to win will be lost. Just before the blow, having increased her hand to the size of a giant, Emma sent the demoness to the ground like a rocket. Vigo felt the defeat of his ally, but it doesn't matter anymore. As soon as he gets the power of Karam, he becomes the strongest and gathers under his command everyone he wants. It's too early to make plans. Lucas is still on his feet and ready to continue fighting, but his attacks do not reach their target. Vigo covered his body with water armor. It's commendable that Lucas was able to use the healing flame, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Vigo intends to show his opponent how weak he is. The water sword failed to block the halberd. Lucas didn't understand how, but without much movement, he received a serious wound to the shoulder. As Vigo swung for the finishing blow, his body stopped listening to him. Angie resists. Her true vessel is alive and asks to stop the demon. Of course, Vigo didn't like this, and he quickly got rid of the interference. Lucas couldn't do anything. He couldn't get back on his feet. You must not allow anger to fill your heart. Otherwise, the inner demon will gain freedom. But it was too late. Nana was just trying to protect him, which cost her dearly. Her shoulder was healing before her eyes, and the fire gradually turned black. The demon sealed in Kiram's soul broke free, and the more Lucas wanted revenge, the more he lost his mind. Kiram was left alone. The vessel had left him. His soul was wrapped in chains, which meant the defeat of the deity. The chains that fell from the dark side of his soul named Karim. A soul that would not worry about the vessel. Now Lucas looks different. Vigo couldn't fully comprehend what was happening. The enemy's divine aura was replaced by a demonic one. But what difference does it make? He still intends to devour her. Wanting the false god dead, and not realizing that his opponent was no longer Kiram, Vigo attacked head-on. Karim didn't even move. The water sword caught fire with a black flame. Did Vigo have time to prepare for death? All his water attacks scattered like brittle ice, too weak. One punch to the face and he flies to the other side of the room. Yawning, Karim mocked Kiram. How could he possibly lose to such a weakling? Desperately continuing to attack, Vigo still hoped for victory. Thousands of ice swords flew at the enemy. In Karim's hands, the halberd changed its shape, turning into a black scythe. With one swing of Banye, black flames engulfed everything in front of her. The swords burned before they could reach their target, but the hellish flames did not go out. In an instant, Karim disappeared, so quickly that Vigo did not have time to understand where he was. The false god struck him in the back, then walked around the body lying on the floor and humiliatingly stepped on his head. And such a weak demon managed to steal Angie's powers and couldn't even use 1/10 of what he stole. It's time to die, and we have to decide whether to burn the loser or cut off his head. But if you kill the body that is Angie's vessel, then her soul will also die. But Karim doesn't care about other people's lives. So it's useless to ask for mercy. Vigo's head flew up. Karim burned her with a powerful column of flame, leaving only a pile of ashes. A small blue drop flew over the ashes, the remnant of Angie's soul. Still, we managed to save a piece. No one expected anything less from her. Emma entered the building. Thank God Lucas was okay, although his appearance had changed a little. Just as she wanted to get closer, Wood and Neja blocked her path. After receiving a report from the Hunters Association, they found this place. Coming closer to Lucas, Neja decided to ask what happened to him. He carried such a demonic aura. But Karim, allowing himself to do whatever he wanted, simply kissed the beauty he liked. The girls, standing to the side, actively commented on their impressions. But the kiss is not just a whim. Kiram took spiritual power by force. But the figure is still good. It's a pity that her chest is like a board. After being in a stupor for some time, Neja came to his senses. Filled with rage, he was ready to finish her off for such a prank. But such direct attacks are not difficult to dodge. Jumping back to the broken wall, Karim declared that he was not wasting time on petty friendly fights. He had worked so hard to get a body, and now he had the opportunity to have some real fun. A drawing immediately appeared on the floor. I couldn't move anymore. What the hell is this? Trigom Demon Seal, Leon entered the room. To seal Kareem, he needs help. Wood and Neja must stand next to him and hold the demon in the center so that he cannot escape. It seems they didn't really like the nicknames Firebird and Flower Boy, but Leon didn't know how to address them, and they didn't have time to get to know each other. Why, being a demon just like Kareem, did the Headless One take the other side? Whether one is a demon or a god is decided by heaven, but whether one does good or evil is up to each individual. Leon would never help a demon take over someone else's body. Wood and Neza did not bother to figure out who was who. Obviously, they needed to complete the printing first. No matter how much Kiram resisted, they managed to drive him back. The demon's spirit left his body and Lucas fell to the floor unconscious. He'll be fine. He just used too much spiritual power. But Nana needed help much more. If she didn't hurry, she might die. Leon offered his help. Let the association take care of the wounded, and he would deal with what happened on the spot. Neza won't say thank you, but God shouldn't thank the demon. The head of Thomas, Leon's vessel, should be somewhere in this room. We'll have to try hard to find it. Lucas had a dream in which he walked in the void and looked for Kiram. But only Kareem responded to his call, putting his hand on his shoulder and approaching his face. And then Lucas woke up already in bed in Yank's room. All his new comrades from the association were nearby. They were happy to see him awaken. But why aren't Emma and Nana around? Are they okay? To escalate the situation, Yank began to talk about Nana as if she was no longer with us, although they did what they could. But Lucas ran up and fell to his knees by her bed, asking for forgiveness and saying goodbye to his friend. He woke her up by putting his hand on her head and she stopped his torment. And everyone started laughing at him and he started crying like a girl. Yank didn't mean Nana, she's perfectly fine, but they weren't able to restore the guardian spirit. Angie appeared in the open, having lost almost all her strength, her soul having returned to its original state. Although she is weakened, she has become quite obedient, and it is now easier for Nana to cope with her. Maybe now she will give up her daily attempts to kill Kiram. But no one knows what happened between them. But even in this state, she splashed water in his face. Well, let's talk about Kareem's appearance. Compared to Vigo, he is 1,000 times more dangerous. Before becoming a god, one must get rid of the demon hiding in the heart. Kareem is another part of the deity, his demonic manifestations. Dividing the soul, the dark and light sides fought for 7 days and 7 nights. The one who won remained the only god of fire in the world. But it is impossible to destroy the other half, since they remain one whole. Therefore, all this time, Kareem was imprisoned deep in the soul. It was worth telling Lucas about such an important secret after all. He now also has something to do with it. But Kiram could not even imagine that Nana's death could give rise to such a strong hatred in the heart of our hero that it would destroy the seal holding back the demon. The girl felt guilty for everything that happened, but it's not worth it. Only Vigo is to blame for everything. By the way, after Kareem took over Lucas' body, he easily dealt with an opponent that Kiram could not handle. But this is only because the demon took complete control of the body and was not at all worried about the integrity of the vessel. If this had continued, our hero's body would have turned to ashes. The door opened and a stranger entered the room, happy that Lucas had come to his senses. He claims that Lucas owes him for a favor, but no one present has seen him before. Finally, they met the whole Thomas, Leon's descendant. With great difficulty, they managed to find the head among many others and resurrect the dying body. Lucas extended his hand, but he walked past him and straight to Nana. He fell to one knee and handed her a rose. All his efforts were only for the sake of his beautiful little sister. They will make a wonderful couple. They suit each other so well. So this is what Leon's descendant is like, different as heaven and earth. But despite his strong weakness for girls, he is a great guy. And Nana, not understanding what to answer, thanked him with great awkwardness for the modest gift. But Lucas won't tolerate this. Her rescue has nothing to do with Thomas. There's no point in making it up. So angry is the beautiful Nana already taken? Although the two of them had been jealous of each other for a long time, there was no official talk of a relationship, and such questions made them feel embarrassed. But even though Nana and Lucas don't say it out loud, they are clearly just trying to work up the courage to share their feelings. In honor of his return, Thomas invites everyone to a vacation by the sea. No refusals accepted. Lucas is against it, but Bifan will be upset if Kiram is not there, and Wood has one very erotic swimsuit. Emma and Robin are also delighted with this idea. They haven't run along the seashore for a long time, and Angie, being a deity who appeared from the water, is very happy about such a vacation. Putting on his cute swimsuit, Yank also began to persuade Lucas to go, but the method he chose was not entirely successful. While they are all relaxing by the sea, our hero and Neja will organize real training. But on the beach, you can eat ice cream and freshly fried squid. For the sake of food, training is moved to the beach. There is no way out. Most have already decided everything, and Lucas will go with them. Lucas returned to his house, muttering under his breath about needing to buy swimming trunks. But while he was gone, a very strong demon came to their house. The Scarlet Child of Fire met him in the living room. All this time, he sat on the sofa and waited for the owner. Did he come to avenge Vigo's murder? But Bart is no longer under his control, and has come in the hope that he will be accepted into this house. After Vigo took over his body, the world has undergone huge changes, and he doesn't know how to find his parents and the goddess of mercy. Being close to the great god, he will definitely be able to find information about them. Why should Lucas allow another spirit to live in this house? In which, as he most likely noticed, there are already a couple of freeloaders. But Bard will not burden the master. Be it cleaning or cooking, polishing, raising a child, training a bear, he can do it all. And why does a deity have so many everyday skills? All because the goddess of mercy, next to whom he was for a long time, despite her righteous image, is in fact a lazy woman. Well, Lucas let Bart stay, but on the condition that he take off his mask. Apparently, in order to admire his beautiful face, the girls immediately ran to gossip. They could have moved a little further. The next day, arguments could be heard coming from Lucas's apartment about Bart having to take off his ancient clothes. Just at that moment, Nana, Emma, and Yank came to pick up their friend for the trip to the sea. Entering the room, they saw Lucas trying to undress the guy by force. Nana can't bear the thought that her lover is such a pervert. Sitting down calmly, Lucas told how Bard came to live with him and explained what had caused the earlier misunderstanding. Nana and Yank invited their new friend to join them on vacation, but Kotya and the spirit of the Scratcher wanted to get to know their new neighbor better. Lucas left his roommates and went with his friends. As soon as the door closed, the girls spread out and began to wonder how they could spend their time lazing around. Bart, looking at them, understood why they weren't taken to the sea. The sun was blazing on the beach, and the weather forecast for the day was excellent. Wood immediately began to size up the men lounging on the beach, and Nana was worried that her swimsuit was too revealing. No matter how revealing it was, everyone would still stare at the non-nude parts. Two such beautiful girls did not have to wait long for male attention. A couple of guys came up to invite them to swim together or play water games. Nana didn't know what to do, and Wood said that they weren't her type and she needed to figure out how to refuse them without offending anyone. Lucas came right away and asked not to cause trouble for his friends, to which the guys reacted aggressively, ready to defend their rights to the girls. But can these hunks carry two beauties on their shoulders at the same time? Then he put the guys in their place and they ran to pump up so that they could do the same. Nana and Angie did not appreciate such protection and felt terrible shame. Meanwhile, Thomas found himself in his heavenly place, where he was surrounded by girls in bathing suits. Leon suggested that it might be better to wear a one-piece swimsuit, and Neja preferred to spend his time cutting through the waves on a surfboard. On the beach, he gathered a group of female fans who admired his skills and appearance. True, from afar they considered him a handsome guy, but when he came ashore, he greatly disappointed the girls. Suddenly the sky became overcast, waves rose and a heavy downpour began. Neza froze and stared at the sky, memories filling him. Not understanding why his friend froze, Lucas tried to lead him under the awnings, but this rain was not simple. Thousands of years ago, a similar downpour fell over a palace in the lands of Tangu. The great dragon asked Neza to admit his guilt and accept his punishment. Otherwise, the nearby lands would be flooded. No one should suffer for his mistakes. Neza squeezed the sword tighter in his hand, and he paid his respects to his parents. He no longer owes anything to anyone. This downpour reminded him strongly of the one that happened on the day of his death. Not the most pleasant memories, so whoever caused them may not expect mercy. Neza hit someone who was behind the clouds, and the sky immediately became clear. It seems like the man is falling. Lucas rushes to save him. Was it really this girl who caused the downpour? The attack hit her right in the head. It seems Neza knows her. He didn't think he would have a chance to meet Felix again, but the girl did not recognize who was standing in front of her, and she certainly could not understand how she knew her name. I didn't even remember his face. It seems his punishment wasn't a good lesson. In ancient times, Nezra killed the prince of the underwater kingdom, for which he paid before his father, the king of the depths. Realizing who was standing in front of him, Felix immediately hid behind Lucas. Our hero has done a good job of going over the ancient legends of the many gods, and shouldn't the prince be a guy? This story is quite long, and happened due to my own stupidity, unlike the story of Neja. Almost none of the dragons survived the great catastrophe. But Felix managed to keep his soul, and he wandered continuously through the ocean. Members of his clan have the ability to inhabit any living marine organism, and as a result, due to an oppressive feeling of fear, he inhabited the body of a fish. But who knew that this clownfish is not so simple? Lucas got the internet clownfish, a type of fish that can change their male gender to female, but once they change it, they can't change it back. With such grief, only Neja is able to understand Felix, because he is also a man locked in a woman's body. Could these two legendary, never-usable deities really have made peace over such a trivial reason? After the Sea Dragon clan disappeared, chaos reigned in the Water Kingdom. Numerous demon clans rebelled, and the Dragon Palace was captured by Everett. He constantly sends his subordinates to this part of the sea to kill defenseless people in the water, which is why Felix dispersed the vacationers. Neja didn't even think that the prince was capable of such a noble act. He always gave the impression of a spoiled and capricious boy, which of course could be said about Neja. With so many deities gathered, it's time to remove Everett from the throne. Lucas might be better off staying on the surface, as his keeper is afraid of water. Wanting to prove his fearlessness, Kiram volunteered to teach his successor the water resistance technique in a minute. We should hurry. Lucas is the only one left standing on the shore. Well, the technique is really not complicated, and I managed to master it and am not far behind the others. What a cool skill. You can breathe and talk underwater without any problems. Lucas is holding up well, but Kiram seems to have very little time left. But he assures that everything is fine, it just takes a little time to get used to it. As soon as they moved away from the shore, the inhabitants of the underwater world discovered them. Trying to take advantage of the title of prince, Felix ordered that respect be shown to him. A simple fish cannot be a prince, and can a prince be a woman? If Kiramu is not feeling well, Neja will gladly take on these two. But Lucas will deal with everyone without the help of the keeper, because he has become much stronger. Having collected divine fire in his hand, our hero ran towards the enemy. The penetrating flame strike reached its target, but the fire immediately went out, as if Lucas had slapped it with his hand. The enemy didn't feel anything. It seems our hero only knows how to talk. There was no opportunity to test fire moves underwater, but if you do it a little differently, the attack will work. Lucas pierced the carapace armor. Although the water reduced the strength of the fire, it did not affect its striking power. The second guard has also already been defeated, and we can try to scout out the situation in the palace. Even under the pretext of death, the hostages refuse to answer questions. Nezi's threats do nothing to frighten them. Folding his hands, Felix asked not to kill the guards. They were just sea people. Before Lucas had time to admire the nobility, the prince himself began to threaten, and even more terribly than Neja. It seems he knows better the fears of the inhabitants of the underwater kingdom. The hostages immediately began to beg for mercy and promised that they would tell everything. After Everett took over the Dragon Palace, he gave the order to go in search of the sea beauty in order to make her his concubine. That's why the guards immediately paid attention to them, because there were two beauties here at once. How strong is this Everett, if he was able to overthrow El and seize the throne? The ruler himself is not so special, but he has the divine pearl of the deep sea, and once he uses it, the sea becomes completely chaotic. Neja is not particularly afraid of such a story. Quickly defeat this Everett and take the pearl. But this is the greatest treasure of the Eastern Sea, and its power has no limits. And if the ruler is driven into a dead end, he will definitely use this power. There is another way to get into the palace, because he is looking for a beautiful concubine. It's unlikely that Neja will be delighted with Lucas's wonderful plan. It's a good thing that the clothes that Kotea bought remained inside Shumi's ring. And why couldn't they dress Felix in this outfit? He's also a beauty. But at least one guard needs to know the way to the women's quarters, so as not to give away the disguise. Although the real man Neja was dissatisfied with the outfit, he clearly enjoyed hearing compliments. The guards remained sitting in the same place. Although they had to obey the ruler, they still hoped that the assembled deities would be able to overthrow him. Having passed unhindered all the way to the palace, the boys walked and discussed the actions after getting inside. At the entrance, they were met by guards who asked them to give their names. Pretending to be newcomers, they showed off their loot, which was immediately valued as merchandise. Neja doesn't know how to calmly accept criticism directed at her, but they were still allowed inside. Felix felt a strong sadness as he looked at the walls he grew up in, Not much had changed. Entering the women's quarters, Neja saw that there was someone else behind the curtain. Other unfortunates captured for the Lord of the Sea. But they need not fear, for Prince Felix has brought new allies to free the underwater world from Everett. So behind the curtain are the most charming girls of the sea people? The tastes of the earth are definitely different from those of the sea. Fishmen look more like fish than people. If Everett sees such beauties, they will definitely not be able to return to their family. As long as Prince Felix is around, the ruler will not dare to touch them with a finger. But you can pretend to be these sisters, and the three of you get into the throne room. This way there is a greater chance that the ruler will choose one of our heroes. The girl from Lucas turned out to be gloomy. It must be because he didn't really like the outfit. The prince is ready to admire himself even in a woman's dress, and Neja gloated, "He is not the only one who should suffer." The lady knocked on the door and warned that soon all the ladies would go to the ceremony of choosing concubines. The sisters from the Fishman village hid behind the bed, thanking the sweet girls for saving them. But they are all men. The guard knocked and then opened the door. It was time to go to the main hall. The servants prepared the next batch of candidates for the Lord. But if they turn out to be dyed herrings, like the previous ones, they all have to be boiled in boiling water. The first was a singer from the Sea Octopus clan. The second was a singer from the Sea Star clan. But Everett could not appreciate such monsters. The prince could not understand how high the demands of this ruler must be, since even such beauties did not please him. Whether Felix always had such a strange idea of beauty, no one knows. What a mockery. There was still one more batch of beauties left, but the ruler wished for everyone to leave the throne room. Having heard this, the beauties did not wait for an invitation. Let him at least look at them. The guard demanded that the order be carried out and that he leave the premises. But it looks like Everett changed his mind, and why are such beauties the last in line? The prince introduced himself as one of the three sisters behind. Originally from a family of fishmen, since they were weak, they only had enough strength to transform into human form. The Lord is pleased with the catch. It looks like today he will finally have a wife. But Everett must choose only one sister, otherwise they will all be against it. And why Felix gets the role of a woman so easily will also remain a mystery. The first, sweet and gentle beauty that is hard to stop thinking about. The second one, on the contrary, seems to be a beautiful lady with a rebellious nature. But the very moment Everett saw Lucas in disguise, he immediately decided that she would be his betrothed. And why did he make this particular choice? Of course, all three of them are men, but at least they have women's bodies. Everett took his chosen one to his royal chambers. They will become their bridal room, and this night will be unforgettable for them. Delaying the tenderness, Lucas began to ask the Lord about his exploits, and then gradually brought the conversation to the pearl. What a beautiful bead. How can you refuse your beloved's request to take a look at it? And then Lucas started to be naughty, but Everett is ready to give it to her, if only she would not think badly of him. Our hero suddenly realized how good it is to have a reliable husband. The window swung open, and through it, the one to whom the ruler had bowed floated into the room. Mr. Ryan gave him a sea pearl to search for a sea needle, but he usurped the sea, called himself the ruler, and even started looking for his wife. The demonic aura he exudes is so strong that it can't be compared to Vigo's. If Ryan liked the beauty, Everett is ready to give in, but fortunately for Lucas, the demon is only interested in the needle, which he gave 7 days to find. The gentleman finally disappeared, but his wife also disappeared somewhere. It turned out that Lucas has the pearl. Now we just need to find the rest. The girls were sitting in the women's room and playing dominoes, and the prince, seeing that he had gotten a chip with 2 circles, declared victory. How can you win? The game has just begun. But inside the palace, luck is always on the side of the royal family. How much longer will we have to wait for Lucas? He's been gone for a long time. But our hero only remembered the path to the throne room, where everyone ran away. Kiram can't sense their spiritual power. His abilities are too limited underwater. But before they could reunite with the others, Everett caught up with them. Was the Lord's dear wife really frightened by Ryan's appearance? Wanting to put an end to this circus, Lucas took off his women's clothes, and the pearl hangs around his neck like a pendant. Now the sea inhabitants cannot be afraid of therapy. Everett was furious at such a deception. How dare he pretend to be a woman? The true form of the Lord of the Eastern Sea is a spinning turtle. He rolls around the room, crushing everything with his shell. But compared to Lucas, he moves rather slowly. It seems that Kiram's help will not be needed here. I didn't even have to respond to the attacks. In most cases, it was enough to simply dodge. Who would have thought that the demon who conquered the entire Eastern Sea would turn out to be such a weakling? But he did not even try to fight. The purpose of his impulses was to tear the pearl from our hero's neck. Here Everett is cornered, his beak having bitten through the treasure and condemned the sea world to endless chaos. Kiram felt a powerful source of spiritual love, so much so that it seemed possible to touch it. Everything around began to collapse. Neza and Felix ran into the throne room. The prince immediately understood the cause of the earthquake. Grabbing his comrades by the arm, Lucas hurried to lead them out of the palace. It had become very dangerous inside. The surface was also not calm. The waves were rocking and becoming stronger. It was as if a tsunami was approaching the shore, and should we worry about those still at sea? There is no point in calling the Hunters Association. They will definitely not arrive so quickly. But if nothing is done, many people will die. We must try to save as many as we can, and no one will run anywhere. Nana and Emma are both brave and kind. Thomas doesn't know who he would choose, but he probably won't have to choose. The seabed began to crack, and there were more and more deep cracks. A huge whale swam out in front of our heroes. You can feel its enormous spiritual power. It seems that the cracks began to appear due to the vibrations created by this huge monster. We can't let him continue to rage. Otherwise, he will turn everything upside down. We need to stop him. Having attacked the whale, Neza flew back. His blow had no effect at all. It seemed the monster didn't even feel anything. The power of the ancient beasts is too great. Can anything be done to defeat it? The Dragon King once told the prince that only a sea needle could seal away a huge monster. Everett mentioned that it lies somewhere in the vastness of the Eastern Sea, which is why he came here. But it is so huge that it is unlikely that he will be able to find it. The Dragon Clan is the soul of all the seas. If Felix unites with the sea, he can easily find the needle. But if you do this, his soul will disintegrate throughout the sea. It is almost the same as destroying your soul. Many years ago, Neza also sacrificed himself to save ordinary people, and now the prince seems to understand why he did it. This is not the time to grieve. We cannot allow his sacrifice to be in vain. A small firefly flew up to the guys. Felix's soul calls them to follow him. They should hurry. Meanwhile, on the surface, the waves continued to wash away the shore, and each time they came higher and stronger. To stop them at least a little, Emma erected a natural wall along the coast. Leon and Wood stayed to watch. With their abilities, they can do little to help, and Bifan refuses to even go near the water. Nana climbed the wall. Angie didn't have much strength, but maybe she could hold back some of the water. Returning to Lucas, Felix's soul led them to another rift. It looks like the needle is inside this cavity. Having jumped down, our hero did not understand how he would recognize it, because the depression itself was not that small. In the darkness, he hit his forehead against some pole. Do they really lay electronic cables in the sea too? It looks like this is a sea game, huge. How can you raise it to the seabed? Lucas grabbed her as hard as he could and pulled. She didn't move a millimeter. She has already found her owner and is unlikely to obey anyone else. Putting his hand to it, Lucas tried to talk to the gun, asking for help in saving the Eastern Sea. Everything around shook. It seemed that the owner of the Sea Needle had been sleeping at the bottom of the rift for a long time, and he did not like being woken up. The divine spirit of Manko appeared before them, sensing what was happening around him. He realized that he did not have much time to sleep in any case. To stop the ancient beast, the deity needs a vessel. Now there is only Lucas in front of him. But Kiram is ready to defend his right of ownership of this body, behaving like a jealous person. Not for long, because no one else can stop the monster's rampage. Nezar was worried. They had disappeared for a long time. There was very little time. Apparently, the ancient beast also felt the aura of the Sea Needle and swam to the same place. Manko jumped out at the right time and saved Neja from the approaching threat, avoiding unnecessary efforts. He first tried to talk to the monster. Maybe he would voluntarily swim back to sleep. But in response, he only received powerful water magic from his mouth, which the monkey deftly dodged. It seems there's nothing left to do but seal the beast by force. Quickly moving around the fish, Manko disappeared from her sight. And then, increasing the size of the needle, he hit her in the side with all his might. Incredible strength. How quickly he managed. The deity then went to the surface, where Nana held back the waves of their last strength. As weak as the Guardians have become, Manko has been sleeping for a long time and is ready to show how to use the powers. By increasing the length of the needlefish, he easily cut through the waves and stopped the unrest on the coast. A couple of hours later, the news was discussing the strange phenomena that had happened that morning, especially the wall of sand that had appeared out of nowhere. This time, the task will be beyond the capacity of the association's settlement department, which usually successfully covers up the tracks of hunters. At the same time, having left everyone, Neza stood on the shore and said goodbye to Felix. His sacrifice was not in vain. Before he could finish his thoughts, a clownfish flew out of the water into his hands. It seemed that the prince had managed to save his soul. At the bottom, Everett crawled out from under the ruins of the palace. He was lucky to survive under such rubble. But I was unlucky to immediately meet the demon Ryan. His expression is cold, but nothing good should be expected. The pearl, the treasure of the sea waters, cross was destroyed. Hoping for mercy, Everett asked to give a couple more days to search. Of course, he couldn't find the needle, but thanks to the turtle he managed to find it, and as punishment he will return to his original form. And the demon turned him into a simple turtle. He will have to grow and increase his spiritual strength from the very beginning. And since the needlefish was kidnapped by a human, there was nothing left for Ryan to do but take on human form. A small journey to Earth awaits him in the form of a beautiful girl. A week later, everyone had already stopped thinking about sea stories. Yank dumped a whole can of food into the aquarium, hoping that if Felix ate more, he would be able to restore his previous shape faster. What Neige didn't like was that the fish would burst or die. He was very worried about the prince. Having received a request from Yank to meet, Lucas came to the office to find out if there was any work for him. There are many incidents happening in the park nearby. People are suffering. Judging by the aura left at the crime scenes, this is the work of a possessed person. And what about the monkey spirit? It is much more hot-tempered than Kiram, and it will be difficult to cope with it. After Manko used the sea needle, his spirit fell asleep and has never woken up. After discussing all the details of the mission and the second soul in his body, Lucas went to check the information. Having waited until late evening, when there was almost no one on the street, he came to the park. Cries for help echoed across the site. The nimble wolf demon was chasing the fragile girl. The chase didn't last long, and he was about to devour her. Lucas ran out as fast as he could and slammed the demon to the ground with a fiery fist. Having assessed the rank of the nimble wolf, he realized that he wouldn't get much money for it. It was too weak. These words sounded offensive, trying to prove his strength. The demon attacked our hero. Although its name implies that it should be fast, its movements are so slow that it is easy to dodge. Having defeated the demon with one blow, Lucas sealed it in Yank's encyclopedia. The task this time was easy. The girl was in no hurry to thank the rescuers. She was trying to understand what kind of monsters were running around the city. The association gave Lucas a special artifact that, after use, changes a person's memory for a certain period of time. The girl could not remember how she ended up in this particular place and what kind of people were standing in front of her. Lucas kindly told her that she had been attacked by a man and that he had been there and was able to help. Such a weak girl shouldn't walk alone in such deserted places, but her house is very close. Seeing the wound on her leg, she couldn't understand how this could happen. Lucas again told her what memories she should remember. It will be difficult to walk with such a wound. It is better to take the poor thing home and check that everything is okay with her. The roof of the mansion was visible behind the trees. I needed to take the girl to it. On the way, I managed to get to know Kate better. Such a big house, like a palace. The parents of the new acquaintance are businessmen. The interior looks just as luxurious, and it is clear that the renovation was done using expensive materials. The girl made a flirtatious face. Her parents were working and there was no one in the house. No matter what she was hinting at, Lucas didn't understand anything. Since everything is fine, it's time to go home. It's late and it's time to go to bed soon. To keep him in the house, Kate used her powers of illusion, showing Lucas what a terrible rainstorm was going on outside. Taxis don't come here. There are no umbrellas. Now I'll definitely have to spend the night in the guest room. Lucas could not even imagine that he would spend the night with a stranger. What surprises life presents. Such a beauty wants with all her might to leave a stranger for the night and also makes unambiguous hints. Kiram begins to suspect that something is wrong here. There was no sense of presence of gods or demons upon entering. But if the spirit is very strong, then its presence is almost impossible to detect, as was the case with Angie. Kate knocked on the door and asked permission to enter. Having changed into a transparent nightgown, she came to ask for help in treating the wound. The girl was moaning all the time and gently asking to be more gentle. It seemed she wasn't thinking about the wound. Lucas accidentally hurt her and got kicked in the face. Kate immediately climbed on top of him. wanting him to be assertive. Let this be gratitude for saving him. Lucas couldn't refuse. Everything was too tempting. Nothing had time to happen. The phone rang. Nana decided to find out how everything went. It is imperative to answer. Kate is not happy with this arrangement. There was very little left. Starting the conversation with simple questions, Nana asked if he was going home now. Of course, there is such a heavy downpour outside, I decided to wait until the weather gets better. Looking out the window, Nana said that there wasn't a single cloud outside, and they weren't that far away for there to be such a difference in the forecasts. Really? Did Kate's illusions stop working after talking about the weather? Initially, Nana wanted to know if Lucas was busy the next day. She needed to come to the student council. According to Maya, guys always talk to each other as if they are at gunpoint when they are with another girl. Well, since the rain has stopped, Lucas will not burden the unfamiliar girl and will go home. Ryan underestimated his target, which is why he failed to carry out his plans. The next day, our hero went with Nana to the student council and saw for the first time what it looked like. On the opposite side of the room, at a large wooden table, sits its leader. So that's what he is like. Very handsome, but rumors around the university say he's an eccentric. This is the one Kiram chose as his vessel. It turns out that the head of the student council knows everything. He called upon the guardian spirit to show everyone his greatness. The deity is displeased with this trait of man. One should call upon him only when necessary, and not when one wants to brag. Lucas had a monkey-like aura about him, which the student council leader's keeper immediately picked up on. Kiramu didn't like such questions. It was indecent to discuss such things in his presence. It seems the deities didn't get along with each other right away.